1 second, I'm knocked out in my trashy studio apartment. Like a regular human being, and boom. Suddenly I'm waking up. Inside what screams total sci-fi, cryogenic casket. My bones were completely frozen solid. My thoughts were total mush, and the second that hatch blew wide open, blinding sunlight blasted me like a flashbang. Super warm welcome. Huge thanks to the universe. Peering through my tightly shut eyelids, a shadow hovering right above me came into view. A little kid with pale, messy hair and striking golden eyes, wearing filthy, oversized rags, and wait a second, rounded, fluffy ears poking out like a mouse on top. 'Cause guess what? She's actually a mouse person. Dope, dope, dope. Totally normal. Everything is completely fine. Before my brain could even process this wild mouse-eared kid staring down at me like some exhibit at the zoo, my empty stomach decided to launch a full strike. Leaning over the cold metallic rim, I violently vomited up a massive wave of pure acid. Talk about a classy intro. My gut then let out a ferocious growl so loud it probably set off nearby earthquake monitors. The little mouse girl, bless her tiny soul, instantly reached into her pockets and pulled out a handful of purple berries. Holding them out to me without a single hesitation, I grabbed them. Could be totally toxic? Don't care, starving. Those wild berries actually tasted amazing. A perfect sweet and sour kick, giving me just enough juice to finally get up and assess this completely messed up situation. Status update. I'm rocking a basic blue tee and shorts. My skinny arms look like frail little twigs. I just crawled out from a high-tech metallic hibernation pod, deep inside a dense wilderness, and a mouse child standing barely up to my chest is literally the only living soul in sight. Where on earth am I? I managed to croak out, using my last remaining brain cells. You're on the Rim world, she stated simply, glancing at me like I was the crazy one here. Right, the Rim world. Makes total sense. She mentioned her name happened to be Clover, and I told her mine was John Lane, which she repeated back super carefully, sounding like she was tackling a tough tongue twister. Honestly, kind of adorable, and then right on cue, a cold synthetic AI voice echoed straight inside my head. Detected host encountering first colonist. Rimworld colony building system activated. A massive glow of a blue holographic map materialized right before my face, displaying the surrounding forest terrain. Open plains stretching east, a babbling creek, and even a rundown wooden cabin nearby. 2 tiny animated avatars sat right in the middle. A white-haired mouse girl and a dark-haired human guy. It mirrored a video game interface because, of course, my reality is literally a game now. Clicking directly on Clover's tiny cartoon profile nearly made me choke on my spit. Shooting level 16. Combat skill level 12. Medical skill level 11. Cooking 0. Totally incapable of making food. This miniature mouse kid, standing under 140 centimeters tall, is basically a walking weapon of mass destruction, who would literally starve while trying to boil water. Time to check my own stats. Shooting rank 0, fighting rank 3. Construction tier 10, social tier 12. Brain power sitting at total 0, literally zip. My intelligence stat is legitimately non-existent. A full-blown emotional meltdown was about to hit me, until the system dropped the clarification that intelligence actually means understanding of this weird planet. And since 0 clue about Rimworld is in my head, it starts at 0, which doesn't mean I'm brain dead. Sure, system, absolutely sure. That reassurance was so comforting while, on the flip side, Clover kept her eyes glued to me as I jabbed at invisible floating screens in the air, while wearing a deeply worried expression. Her tiny mouse ears twitched nervously in the chilly breeze. Having survived an entire brutal winter all by herself out here, she finally crossed paths with someone who could actually speak, and didn't look immediately dangerous, only for that someone to stand there grinning at absolute nothingness, and poking his fingers into empty space. Like an absolute madman, I could read it straight in her eyes. She was thinking, please don't let this guy be broken. Please don't be broken. Relax, Clover. I am not broken at all. Just a 0 intelligence colonist rocking twig arms, plus a building permit, meaning we're totally going to make it. A tiny hand was waved right in front of my face by Clover, asking, are you okay? Which snapped me out of my system-induced trance as I scrambled to put on a normal front. You still need to go hunt down berries. With a nod, she muttered that the stored berries were completely gone, and the batch she had just picked earlier had been entirely eaten by me. Instant guilt activated. Her gaze scanned me up and down, with heavy emphasis on the up apart since I towered over her. By a good head and a half. Before she basically told me, "You look like you'd kick the bucket in 2 days out here. On your own. Feel free to stick around with me for a bit if you want." She wasn't even wrong, since I would definitely bite the dust in 2 days out here solo. "Thanks," I replied, desperately trying to salvage what little dignity I had left. "I'll give you a hand gathering those berries too, plus." My map highlights every single berry bush sitting around us. Her golden eyes suddenly lit up like tiny suns in the dim light. "You can actually locate where they are? Is that some high-tech gear from your home planet?" "Yep, totally standard technology straight from my home world. Nothing suspicious happening over here. Calling the system technology isn't technically a lie, right? Right?" Walking along the path toward the berry patches, Clover treated me to the ultimate lore dump. As it turns out, we're stuck on the Rim world, sitting right on the absolute edge of the universe. The most middle-of-nowhere planet you could possibly picture, devoid of any government or rules, peopled entirely by a random mix of colonists from diverse planets, and star systems crammed together, refugees, explorers, and survivors alike. Every single person winds up here for entirely different reasons. Oh, and regarding the year, it's currently 5,500. My timeline somehow shifted from a trashy rental apartment straight into the year 5,500. My former landlord is definitely going to be furious about the unpaid rent. Even the calendar setup here is completely wild, since a full year lasts a mere 60 days, broken neatly down into 4 phases of 15 days each, starting with green. Spring, summer, autumn, and winter bring red, amber, and white. Marking day 7 of the green face timeline, right here today. The chill is still kind of brutal, yet totally survivable. Relying on my handy system app, I guided Clover straight to the nearest berry patch. Her face literally lit up instantly. "No way, you actually tracked it down?" Beneath her clothes, that tiny mouse tail started wagging away. Wagging just like an excited little puppy dog. Only she's a mouse, a seriously lethal combat-trained mouse, who somehow gets hyped over simple berries. Out of nowhere, the system decided to drop another notification on me. Decompose function unlocked successfully. It automatically transforms surrounding objects into raw, usable materials. Those specific prerequisites must be met first. Staring at the berry bush, I triggered the command in my head. A sudden blinding white glow consumed the entire bush. Clover's reaction was practically instantaneous. She vaulted backward, shoved me safely behind her, and whipped out a dagger from absolute thin air. With a gleaming blade and eyes locked in sharp focus, she switched straight to full combat mode. This girl jumped from foraging mode to assassination stance in less than 0.2 seconds flat. Running on pure reflex, I gave her head a light pat. "Chill out, it's just my, tech acting up." The brilliant glow faded away and the bush vanished, leaving every single berry resting neatly on the dirt, cleanly separated from the foliage. A bright flush of pink spread across Clover's cheeks as she realized she had totally overreacted and quietly lowered her weapon. "Don't go patting my head," she muttered under her breath. "That's totally low-key rude, got it?" Note to self, do not head pat the miniature combat mouse. Super disrespectful, but honestly hilarious when she's flustered. We cleared out 2 more berry bushes right after that. By the time our little run wrapped up, both of us were hauling armfuls of fresh harvest. Clover looked so ecstatic her eyes crinkled into sweet little crescents. She hummed a random tune I'd never heard before, her tail swishing rhythmically back and forth. Making our way back through the trail, I finally threw out the question that had been nagging me. "What made you decide to take in a total random stranger?" Flicking her slender tail with casual ease, she replied, in a matter-of-fact tone. "Because you don't give off any sketchy vibes at all. Plus you're totally unarmed and pretty weak, meaning you're zero threat to me." I glanced over at her towering level 12 combat stats, then checked my miserable level 3, leaving me completely speechless. Softening her voice slightly, she added, "Surviving out here alone gets lonely. And someone like you is a rare find, honestly." Fair enough, loneliness checks out. Humans are social creatures after all. Wait a minute. Do mouse people even count as human? Well, mice are pack animals too. So the logic definitely holds up. Brushing past some thick foliage led us straight out, onto a wide-open meadow split by a running stream. Right on the riverbank sat a beaten-down wooden cabin that looked abandoned for ages. I stumbled on this spot completely by accident. Clover mentioned while shoving open the groaning door. Whoever built this place left it behind for good. Still, it blocks out the heavy rain and howling wind. She finished by dropping a pile of berries into the cabin's corner. What a vibe. Home sweet home inside a sketchy creekside shack. A mountain of purple berries sits beside a tiny mouse warrior. Apparently, she low-key thinks I'm way too pathetic to be any real threat. She's not even lying, but man, that still kind of stings. Stepping into the gloomy cabin behind Clover, I started checking out the place. There was literally zero furniture or cool decor. A random pile of food sat in the corner, paired with a dusty patch of dry floor grass meant for sleeping. A dusty patch of dry floor grass in the corner served as the bed. The entire floor plan felt so cramped that if two people stood shoulder to shoulder, the room would instantly be maxed out. I've genuinely seen public restrooms with way more breathing room. Glancing at Clover and then down at the floor, I looked back up and asked, "So we're just crashing here together? Squeezing in tight?" Honestly, I was totally ready to pull the short straw and take the night shift sleeping outside. Saving me from dying was already a huge W on her part, so I wasn't about to be picky. Saving me from certain doom was already a massive favor, so beggars couldn't be choosers. Instead, Clover just slapped her forehead and muttered, "Right, 2 people means we need more grass. Right, having 2 people here means we definitely need way more dry grass." Dashing right back outside, she went to forage for more bedding. That wasn't even the awkward part one was stressing about, Clover, but whatever works. Fair enough. She clearly had zero issues with this cozy roommate situation, so who was I to start whining? At least I wasn't freezing out in the wilderness. While she was gone, I dropped onto the floor and started hacking the system interface. It's supposed to be a colony building system, right? So are my sweet starter rewards. Hand over a weapon, or literally anything useful. Digging through endless menus. Took forever before anything finally popped up. This ultra-stingy system literally gates everything behind deep menus. You actually have to hunt for your loot. System alert. Host arrival on Rim World detected. Basic workbench blueprint unlocked. Skill trainer. Fighting level 1 acquired. Second colonist detected inside the host colony. Basic furniture blueprint and skill trainer. Shooting level 1 granted. Basic furniture blueprint and skill trainer. Shooting level 1 added to inventory. You had these locked away the whole time and didn't even drop a hint? The blueprints instantly downloaded straight into my consciousness the second I claimed them. Workbenches, tool crafting stations, stone cutting benches, and butchering slabs, all the essentials. The furniture pack hooked me up with blueprints for actual beds and bookshelves. Beds, bookshelves, and other handy gear. My intelligence stat also bumped up to level 1. One whole level up. Going from knowing absolute zero to knowing almost nothing is what I call a massive W. Of course, having the recipes in my head doesn't magically spawn the raw materials. I still gotta grind for everything myself. Thanks for nothing, system. But those skill trainers, though, those actually looked low-key cool. They looked like little white brick-shaped gadgets. When I asked the system how to operate one, it told me to literally slap it against the back of my skull. So I just went for it. Mechanical claws suddenly clamped tight onto my skull, sending a sharp wave of pain straight through my brain. Then bam. A torrent of 4 memories flooded my mind. I felt like a seasoned martial arts master. Every single movement fluid and powerful. Dodge and counter sequences felt as natural as breathing. Once the process finished, my fighting rank had surged from level 3 all the way to level 5. Too bad my actual physical body still felt like a soggy noodle. Though the info was locked in my brain, my arms remained totally pathetic like twigs. Possessing knowledge of a flying roundhouse kick is pointless when your legs can barely survive a flight of stairs. Next up, I fired up the shooting trainer. Same routine and a wave of sharp pain, followed by a memory flood, shot my marksmanship straight to level 3. Now, I am equipped with the tactical insights of someone who has never held a firearm. It spent countless hours daydreaming about them. Once both training units were completely drained, I broke them down into raw components, gathering some iron silver and a few tiny mechanical pieces. Basic crafting materials, which is pretty neat. Right on schedule. Clover returned, hauling a massive bundle of withered grass. "Will this amount be enough?" she asked. "Plenty, thanks a lot." I neatly scattered the dry vegetation as the evening sky outside faded into pitch black. Then I decided to pitch my real idea. "Do you have any specific agenda for tomorrow?" She blinked slowly. "If we need provisions. I forage for food, and if we need medicinal plants, I gather herbs, maybe stumble upon something random along the way. A survival routine utterly devoid of variety." No wonder her daily existence was so lonely. What if we construct a brand new house? I suggested with a grin. Her eyes flashed with sudden excitement. Before dimming down, I thought about doing that. But building is completely outside my skill set. The quiet yearning in her tone hit hard. This poor girl had been enduring an entire winter, sleeping inside a glorified wooden shed, and dreaming of a real home she could never build. Trust me, I can handle it. I won't promise any luxury mansion, yet it will definitely crush this dump. Back in the old days, prior to being dragged here, I worked as a civil engineering labor back on Earth, eventually laid off after a couple of years. Because the job market completely crashed, I spent my final remaining days lounging in my apartment, bleeding through my savings and government welfare checks. And that exact moment was when the universe decided to yeet me straight into the year 5500, at the very least. My construction background is finally paying off again. Clover's face slowly lit up brightly, with the most genuine joy I had ever witnessed from her. Tomorrow, if you have free time, let us tackle this project together, I agreed. She nodded so enthusiastically her furry ears bounced. Just tell me whatever you need tomorrow morning. For now, let us get some rest. My mind had felt foggy and exhausted ever since crawling out of that cryogenic pod, and exhaustion was finally taking over completely. My consciousness faded into the dark in a flash. One jobless construction worker, and a tiny combat mouse companion, resting on straw inside a broken-down shack, while dreaming of building a home tomorrow. This is my current reality in the year 5500. Day 7, let's do this. Clover scrambled inside the tiny cabin and claimed her usual spot against the partition wall. I scratched the back of my head awkwardly. Look, I somehow got teleported 3 millennia into the future, right onto a completely alien wasteland planet. That part 1 can totally manage. Sharing a sleeping space with a girl for the very first time, though, that is where my brain completely short-circuits, not gonna lie. Anyway, she didn't seem to care as I wedged myself into the cramped corner, trying to maintain as much personal space as humanly possible, and finally stretched out on the rough straw mattress. Man, that thing felt solid, literally rock solid. Sleep was totally out of the question with everything that went down today. I literally woke up inside a sci-fi coffin, got adopted on the spot by a mouse girl, was handed a whole colony management interface, and just found out my intelligence stat is basically that of a newborn. You know, just another totally normal Tuesday in this weird reality. Seriously, how am I even supposed to build a thriving settlement here? Just keep recruiting random people, right? And use what kind of flex to pitch it? Hey, come join us. We've got wild berries in a bathroom-sized shack. Suddenly, a wave of warmth hit my arm, making me look down, to find that Clover had instinctively latched onto it in her deep sleep, snuggling in tight, like I was some kind of luxury body pillow. A soft little grin was painted across her face. So she was definitely having a wholesome dream. 0 defensive walls left against me. Absolutely 0. I mean, I totally get why she trusts me in the first place. After all, she literally saved my life, and I own literally nothing worth stealing anyway. Still, what possible reason does Asahi have to put any trust in me? Gazing down at her peaceful, sleeping expression, all those chaotic, racing thoughts in my head finally quieted down, and before I even realized it, I was completely out cold. My eyes snapped open at dawn, and I tried to quietly ghost out without waking Clover up, but her sensitive mouse ears instantly twitched, and she bolted awake. Is it morning already? She mumbled in a sleepy, groggy tone. Before I could tell her to catch more Z's, she shook her head and sat straight up. Morning or not, that doesn't change anything. Aren't we supposed to build a house today? Talk about a girl who is always ready to grind. Stepping outside immediately hit me with a biting gust of cold morning wind, especially since I was still rocking that paper-thin blue shirt. Definitely the peak fashion choice for early spring survival in the wild. Love it, Clover muttered sarcastically as she munched on a berry and glanced up at me. So how do we build a house? Walking up to a sturdy tree trunk, I pressed my palm firmly against the rough bark. Decompose. Only harvested what can be processed. Yeah, figures. The system interface did mention that there were strict prerequisites for the decompose function to work, meaning I couldn't just magically vaporize a living tree. Do you happen to have an axe? I asked. Clover vanished so fast in a split second that she left a literal blur behind, returning moments later, while lugging a battered, beaten-up axe. I found this a while ago and use it whenever I need to chop firewood. Taking the heavy tool from her, I pivoted toward the trunk and swung with every ounce of muscle I had, resulting in a loud boing. The jarring impact reverberated through my entire skeleton so violently that I damn near launched the axe straight into orbit. My weak little twig arms went completely dead and numb right away. Classic. My limbs are literally made of printer paper and sadness. Completely forgot about that. I'll handle the chopping, Clover declared immediately, snatching the axe back from me with a look that vividly communicated, "Please stop before you accidentally break yourself." Without uttering a single word, I handed it right over. Was it humiliating? Absolutely. But let's be real, staying alive leaves zero room for ego. This pocket-sized girl, barely brushing past my sternum, somehow leveled a massive, mature tree in mere minutes. Meanwhile, a single swing of the axe had me questioning my entire life choices. Man, my fitness level seriously needs a glow-up. This is literally cringeworthy on a cellular level. The exact moment the timber crashed down, I sprinted over and slapped my palm right against the bark. Blinding white light completely swallowed the massive log hole. As the glow faded away, stacks of flawlessly cut planks were scattered across the dirt. Wait a second, that isn't just rotting things down. That's full-on industrial processing. The system deadass turned a raw tree into premium building supplies. Picking up a fresh piece, I decided to test my luck again. Decompose, and boom, the wood morphed into a geometric sphere. My eyes lit up instantly. I can literally mold this wood into whatever shape I crave. Custom cuts, precise dimensions, no sweat. Whatever form I dream up, the system's got me covered. Putting up a shelter just went from being a soul-crushing, week-long nightmare to a totally chill, one-day build. Clover was completely speechless for a hot second. Then the realization finally hit her too, and her face broke out into the most hyped, excited grin. "I'll go fell more trees," she yelled, zooming off into the brush with her axe. Hauling an armful of timber, I immediately dove straight into the grind. Nothing too fancy here, just something way more spacious than that sketchy shack. As long as the roof stays over our heads, and we can move around without constantly slamming into each other, I'm calling it a massive W. I repurposed the iron scrap from yesterday's skill testing to craft actual nails directly through the system interface. Lacking a hammer, I just grabbed a sturdy rock instead. Hey, good enough, and then I locked into the build phase. Hands moving nonstop, brain calculating angles. System pulling its weight. It honestly felt just like back in my old civil engineering job, right before I got unceremoniously laid off. Deep-rooted muscle memory kicked in hard. Barely half a day later, the structural frame of our new cabin was already standing tall. I collapsed straight onto the dirt next to it, gasping for precious oxygen. My stamina is straight up trash. Half a day of physical labor and I'm fried. Clover trotted over, handing me wild berries, while staring at the nearly finished house. With wide, twinkling eyes, the processed timber had this sleek, clean, golden ivory shade, making the whole build look 100 times better than that gloomy, depressing hovel. The interior was surprisingly roomy. You could actually fit proper furniture in here. You could pace around freely without stubbing your toes on the walls. I'm definitely converting that old shack into an outhouse. That's its true destiny, now glancing over at Clover. I noticed her tail was wagging at such insane speeds. It was turning into a literal helicopter rotor. She loved it. She was head over heels obsessed with it. Seeing her, that ecstatic genuinely warmed my chest too. Truly. The first actual good vibe since waking up inside that creepy coffin. Popping the final berry into my mouth, I hopped back up to finish off the remaining details. Suddenly, a deafening explosion shattered the quiet sky overhead. Snapping my head upward, I watched something blow up high in the atmosphere, leaving a chaotic trail of smoke and blazing fire that billowed across the bright blue expanse. Like crazy fireworks, and man, that can't possibly be good. Are the colonists up there fighting an actual war? What kind of wild stuff are they launching up into the atmosphere? Just then something caught my eye. A bright white streak came hurtling out of the blast zone, looking like a shooting star, and slammed hard into the dense tree line just a stone's throw away. Right on cue, the system chimed in with a notification. Attention, fallen angel. Fallen angel, fallen angel. Yeah, why the heck not? We're barely 2 days into RimWorld, and things are already getting biblical. Pulling up the tactical map revealed a strange, tiny icon deep inside the woods, right where the debris had hit. Hang on a second, that is definitely a person. Looks like someone dropped right into our backyard, Clover noted, while her sharp gaze kept sweeping across the shadowy tree line. This kind of chaos happens all the time on RimWorld, though sometimes you might actually stumble upon some sweet loot at the impact site. Want to go check it out? She asked, turning her head to wait for my green light. With a quick nod from me, off we sprinted, navigated smoothly by the system radar straight to the coordinates. A smoking crater lay torn open in the soil, radiating intense waves of heat. Holding her arm out to stop me, Clover crept forward slowly. First, she peered cautiously over the steep ridge of the crater, and the color drained completely from her face. Yo, Clover, what are we looking at? Stepping closer, I peered down into the pit, and my brain totally short-circuited. Sprawled out at the bottom was a girl. A mind-blowingly gorgeous girl, with striking ice-blue locks fanned out like frozen flower petals. She was dressed in a pristine white lab coat that had been shredded to absolute shreds. Exposing pale skin and sprouting from her back were wings. Colossal, feathery white wings that dwarfed her entire frame. Floating gently right above her head was a faint, softly glowing golden halo. It was an actual, literal angel drenched in blood. Her pristine white feathers soaked completely red. The radar had picked up those strange wings and halo icons earlier, which explained why the map symbol looked so weird. But the interface certainly can't render faces, so nothing could have possibly prepared me for an absolute stunner of an angel dropping right out of the sky. Shaking off her shock first, Clover dove straight into the crater to inspect the injuries. I scrambled right after her, asking how bad is it? Super bad, muttered Clover with a grim expression. She's dealing with multiple severe fractures, and way too many external lacerations to even count. There's potential organ trauma too, meaning she urgently needs intense medical attention. Even my own eyes could spot the brutal gashes scattered everywhere. Some of them nasty enough to make me physically wince. Being just an ordinary guy straight out of a peaceful era, I'd honestly never laid eyes on this much carnage in my entire life. Turning around to ask Clover if we should bother saving her, I found Clover already looking back at me, with that exact same question on her lips. Should we save her? She's actually leaving the final call up to me. Hey, I'm a designated leader here, alright. Let me pull up her stat sheet first. Could this be a massive W for colony development? Sure. Though, if this mysterious angel's combat stats outrank Clover's, we might be walking right into a major problem once she comes to. Bringing up her data panel showed the name Lucia Electra. Race Marilla, shooting skill level 6. And a melee combat level of 3. Yes, just level 3. Dead even with mine, which means this angel is just as totally useless in a fistfight as I am. Yet, right at that final sentence, my eyes locked on the screen. A solid 20 out of 20 for intelligence, totally maxed out with double star talent. My own stat sat at a measly 1, while Clover flexed a 4. Honestly, this gorgeous angel is basically a walking encyclopedia. Without missing a beat, I yelled out to save her right away. Save her, I said. Skipping any hesitation, she jumped right into action. Clover immediately started field treatment. Our only real lifeline here was her level 11 medical skill, with 0 bandages or spare cloth around the area. So she ripped long strips straight out of the angel's already shredded lab coat. Seeing that wasn't enough, I tore off chunks of my own shirt sleeves and handed them over that barely stopped the bleeding. Scooping the angel up into my arms, we sprinted back toward our base. Even though Clover's way stronger than me, her tiny frame just couldn't handle those massive wings on the angel. Impossible for her to carry. Carrying her weight made 2 wild things immediately obvious. First off, her body felt ridiculously weightless. Second, those gorgeous wings were absurdly heavy. How does she live like this? How does she even walk also? Considering she literally plunged straight down from the sky, dropping right from the upper atmosphere where that massive blast blew up, that high into the ground. And she's not dead. Her physique has got to be way more durable than it looks on the surface. Arriving back at base, Clover immediately dashed off to forage for healing herbs. Meanwhile, I carried the angel inside the, let me rephrase, into the old cabin. Not the toilet, the old cabin, which I'm definitely not calling a toilet anymore, because that would be disrespectful to our patient. Those giant wings were so overwhelmingly massive that she completely blocked out every square inch of the room that used to fit me and Clover together. There she lay in total silence, resembling a pristine white angel stuffed straight into a sketchy wooden crate. Giving off total coffin vibes, I stood right outside the doorway for a second, lost in thought, staring at her for a moment thinking. Then I stepped forward, muttered a quick sorry under my breath, and reached toward her flawless body, specifically targeting her wing feathers. Plucking out a single feather didn't even cause a flicker of a reaction from her. Still totally knocked out, holding a feather that measured as long as my entire palm. Soft, flexible, and surprisingly durable. Honestly, this stuff would make top-tier blanket material. Glancing down at my own tattered top, between the strips I ripped off to handle the medical emergency, and the overall wreckage of my outfit, this shirt offered zero insulation against the chill. One single gust of wind, and I was shaking like a shivering, wet chihuahua. At this rate, I'm definitely catching a nasty cold. Some real winter gear is mandatory here. My wandering gaze shifted right toward the angel's blood-soaked attire. Peeling back that lab coat? Nah, no way in hell am I doing that. My master plan involves recruiting this girl into our little settlement. If she wakes up and realizes I looted her clothes, while she was completely out cold, any shred of trust we could build would instantly vanish into thin air. Guess I'll just power through it. My body feels solid, well, hopefully anyway. Day 2 wrap-up. Managed to construct half a house. Watched an insane aerial dogfight unfold above. Pulled an angel straight out of a smoldering crater. And now I'm slowly freezing to death, wearing half a shredded shirt. Our total settlement head count sits right at 2.5. That remaining half is currently out cold inside a feather-stuffed coffin. Carrying an armful of wild greens, Clover made her way back, and caught me standing dead in the doorway, shaking like an old washing machine on its last legs. Tilting her head curiously, she marched right up to me and gazed upward, way up into the freezing air. That massive height gap between us seized her complete annoyance for a second. Crouch down, she demanded, and I obliged, slowly unlooping the cozy fabric from her own neck. She rose on her tiptoes and tenderly wound it around mine, loop by loop, with absolute precision and care. Standing completely still, I just watched her work her magic. The only other woman who had ever wrapped a scarf around me was my mom back in the day. Stepping back once she finished, she flashed a gentle smile. This scarf is super warm, I said, giving a light touch. It still carried her signature scent, a faint, earthy aroma reminiscent of dried, medicinal flowers. It barely made a dent against how frozen the rest of my body felt. Yet my chest radiated a profound, genuine heat. What about you? Will you be okay without it? I asked, while she gave her oversized outerwear a confident pat. I've got this heavy snow coat, and it's totally toasty. I survived an entire brutal winter wearing it. Then, she threw in a quick disclaimer. But you definitely can't have this one. I catch chills easily anyway, so I wasn't planning on it. I replied, mostly because it wouldn't have fit my frame regardless. Clover headed off to treat the wounded angel, leaving me to tackle a much more pressing survival crisis. Where on earth were we going to sleep tonight? That rundown shack was currently occupied from corner to corner by a single, unconscious angel and her massive, sprawling wings. There was zero chance I was squeezing myself in there. Consequently, this brand new cabin had to be fully livable by sundown. No exceptions allowed as I started building like a man possessed, hammering and shaping timber. I relied on system-assisted construction running at maximum overdrive. The moment I finally dropped the heavy rock I'd been utilizing as a makeshift hammer, and collapsed straight onto the dirt. Dripping with sweat, the cabin was finally complete. Gazing up at it, I saw a cozy little wooden shelter, straight out of an animated series. It looked like the exact kind of lakeside cottage a weary hero retires to, after saving the whole world. Since it's built entirely of wood, roof included, it's definitely going to leak the second it rains. And that window is just a tiny salvage pane of glass I ripped right off the old shack. But hey, it gets a job done. At the end of the day, it's a real house with actual walls, a door, and breathing room, even though the sun was still setting, and it felt like I'd been laboring for a full week. The harsh day still refused to end. Rimworld days must genuinely outlast standard Earth days, which makes complete sense given the 60-day years. An alien star and a completely different planet. I really need to quit comparing everything back to Earth time. Using the leftover scraps, I pieced together a bed frame. Well, more like a glorified wooden slab, featuring zero mattress, zero sheets, and zero blankets, especially since I don't even have spare clothes for myself. Bedding is out of the question, but we'll somehow make it work. Right on cue, Clover finally wrapped up treating the angel, and stepped out through the doorway of the old shack. Caught in her tracks by the finished cabin, she went completely rigid like a stone sculpture. Every single muscle in her body locked up tight. After rubbing her eyes, her twitching ears suddenly perked up. Then those eyes lit up bright, like golden lanterns. Striking a chill, casual pose, I announced that our new pad was officially done, while gesturing toward the doorway. Go ahead and take a peek, I urged as she bounced right inside. Though completely empty, with zero furniture in sight. She didn't care about that even a little bit. Her gaze suddenly locked onto the bed in the corner. There's a bed. She launched her whole self onto the bare wooden boards and immediately started rolling all over it, just rolling back and forth endlessly, like a kid who had literally never owned a bed in her life, which honestly she probably hadn't, at least not for a very long time. Stepping inside, I pointed out that the house still had plenty of open space. I said, walking in, some furniture will get built whenever I catch a break. And besides, for tomorrow, gathering some stones is also on my mind. Cutting my sentence short in midair, I noticed Clover had already passed out across the bed frame, dead asleep, right in the middle of a roll. Zero defense whatsoever, absolute zero. This girl literally trusts me like I'm just a piece of furniture. That realization hit me hard. I had purposely built the bed large enough for 2 people, without even giving it a second thought. As if sharing a bed with Clover was just the natural default setting. Why didn't I just build 2 separate beds instead? That thought genuinely never crossed my mind. Not even for a single second. My brain just registered a bed for us and moved right along. Oh well, it is definitely not worth overthinking. I'm not losing out on anything here anyway. Leaving a nice open spot for me, Clover had made room on a mattress, sliding down right beside her just like last night. The second she picked up on my body heat nearby, she instinctively curled right into me while fast asleep. That exact same soft little smile graced her face. Reaching over, I gently ruffled her messy white hair. Every single muscle screamed in pain, and my body was aching all over. My brain was completely shutting down from exhaustion. Yet for the very first time since waking up in that cursed coffin, this place genuinely felt a tiny bit like home. Blinking my eyes open the next morning, it was a brand new day on RimWorld. Right beside me, Clover was still dead to the world. She stirred slightly when I shifted but failed to wake up. This girl sleeps like she's checked into a 5-star hotel. She managed to survive an entire brutal winter all by herself, yet sleeps this soundly. What if some danger had attacked her in the dead of night? Reaching out, I gently rubbed her fluffy white locks. Sure, she warned me never to touch her head, but since she's out cold, what she doesn't know won't hurt her. Her hair is ridiculously soft to the touch, feeling just like petting a cloud. I could honestly do this all day without getting bored, nuzzling closer into my palm without even waking up. She caused my face to stretch into the absolute goofiest, warmest grin like a proud parent watching a baby. Day 3 instant serotonin therapy successfully completed. Time to get to work. Slipping out of the cabin quietly so she wouldn't wake up. The crisp morning wind hit me like a freezing wake-up slap. 48 hours in, and getting used to this freezing weather is still a total pipe dream. Wearing this shredded shirt is an absolute joke. A quick splash of water to wake up my face happened down at the stream, before I ducked straight into the old shack to scavenge some berries for breakfast. Stretched out motionless on the ground, the angel was still completely knocked out, remaining entirely unconscious, and looking just like a masterwork sculpture that some deity must have spent an entire career chiseling. Eating my meal, I mentally checked off my to-do list for the day. Living on berries forever isn't going to cut it, so finding stone to build a proper cooking hearth is a must. According to the system map, plenty of wildlife is lurking nearby, including a cheetah, though. Luckily, that beast is far enough away not to cause an immediate headache. Hunting is definitely on the table, but it needs to be handled with care, along with crafting tools and weapons. Clover mentioned that settlement raids go down all the time around here, meaning staying ready is non-negotiable. On top of that, my old hibernation pod is still sitting abandoned out in the forest, so stripping it down for raw materials is high priority. The more my mind wandered, the longer that endless list grew. Being a colony leader honestly feels like acting as a project manager with zero budget and a staff of only 1.5 people. Finishing up the last of my berries, I turned my gaze back toward the angel. Yesterday, she was low-key breathtaking, but I've been way too focused on the blood and trauma to actually appreciate her looks properly. Slowly, my eyes drifted upward past her legs clad in white stockings, past all her striking features, and straight up to her delicate nose and flawless face, sporting such immaculate bone structure. She looked like a collector's figurine brought to life. Then, my gaze locked on her eyes, striking ice blue, wide open, and staring right into mine. She was totally awake. She had been conscious this entire time, just lying there in the shadows, watching me eye her up in absolute silence. Every single muscle in my body turned instantly to stone. Just how long has she been awake? Did she seriously catch me scanning her from bottom to top, like I was appraising some piece of merchandise? Her expression remained totally blank and completely unreadable, while those intense blue eyes locked onto mine, like a military targeting system, standing there completely frozen. My brain desperately cycled through every possible excuse, at the speed of light, only to find none of them convincing. Not a single word came from the angel, nor from me either. A cold gust of wind swept through the cramped shack, and somewhere in the distance a bird chirped merrily, remaining completely clueless that a man's entire reputation was dying a painful death inside a tiny, toilet-sized cabin. This excruciating staring contest lasted for about 3 long seconds before the angel finally broke the silence. "Who are you?" Her voice came across frosty, crystal clear, and gorgeous, resembling wind chimes made of ice, though an underlying weariness bled through the tone. Stepping back slightly to give her a proper view of me, I replied, "Just an ordinary colonist. Saw you crash right out of the sky, drag you back here, and patch you up." Silence fell over her, and I could practically hear her sharp brain analyzing every detail about me. With tattered garments on, morning meals consisted purely of wild berries, residing inside a rundown shack resembling an absolute dump. The ultimate deduction was being way too broke to pose any real threat. Her cautious wall came down just a bit. What a clever girl. Right then, Clover poked her little head right through the doorway. "Oh look, our winged friend is finally awake." "Winged friend? You mean the actual angels?" I flinched visibly, stating I'm definitely no winged person. A Marilla is what I am, prompting a confused what from her. As Clover stared straight at me, a helpless shrug was my only reply. Having touched down on this alien planet barely 2 days ago, cluelessness about anything around me was total. An expression of genuine bewilderment washed over the angel's face. "You don't even know what a Marilla actually is. Those sky spirits," we both muttered while shaking our heads in sync. Honestly, one of us barely wraps her head around this strange world, and the other understands it even less. Realizing we weren't putting on an act, she eased up just a tiny bit more. Fresh colonists who were way too clueless to be scheming anything. "What is your actual name?" Clover inquired. "And how did you even fall?" the angel asked with parted lips. "My alias is Anira, a totally fake name," came out of my mouth instantly, given that her real identity was spelled out plain as day, right there on my floating system panel. "Lucia Electra. Nice try with that cover story, Angel." In a split second, Clover's expression turned freezing cold. A sharp dagger materialized, in her grip so lightning fast that tracking her movement was impossible. She locked eyes with the angel like a miniature, white-haired executioner just waiting for the final green light. Gentle pats were given to Clover's head to soothe her down, causing the blade to be put away quite reluctantly. "You're way sharper than you look," the angel sighed out loud. "Surviving a joint like this means you gotta be street smart," I replied. With a grin, "Check this out for a second. It's pretty obvious we kept you from biting the dust, and any hostility on our part is zero. The basic questions being thrown your way shouldn't be that hard to answer honestly, right?" Heavy silence hung in the air before another deep sigh escaped. "Lucia. Full name Lucia Electra. That's my actual moniker, but just call me Lucia will do." "So Lucia serves as the given name, and LX something fills the spot for the family name?" Clover inquired, to which a confirming Electra in yes was returned. "You can totally look at it that way if you want." A slight twitching of Lucia's eyebrow did not go unnoticed. Clover's endless probing was already getting on her nerves. Meanwhile, Clover remained completely oblivious to the tension. Fascinating how different species follow opposing naming conventions. Looking right here at the system panel display, Ivy Clover is written as Clover's complete designation, putting Ivy right at the front as the family identifier, whereas Lucia puts her ancestral family name at the very back. Cultural quirks still exist even in the year 5500. Cruising through the stratosphere was going great, until a heavy cannon shell smashed right into me. Lucia stated in a concise manner. Neat, clean, and giving off minimal info. An eyebrow raised on my end as I processed this. "Let me get this straight. You took a direct cannon blast straight to the torso up in the stratosphere, plummeting all the way down to the surface below, only to wake up safe and sound 1 day later." A fleeting flash of pure pride washed over her features. Naturally, being a highborn Marilla comes with perks. This scale of physical trauma means literally nothing to me. It was truly nothing to her. Cruising at airplane altitude, she took a direct artillery hit. Down she smashed into the dirt, cratering the ground like a straight-up meteor. Yet right now, she just brushes it off like it's low-key nothing. Honestly, a wave of pure anxiety was washing over me, with this angel having such ridiculously insane durability. What's gonna go down once she fully recovers? Could Clover and I suddenly become her targets? Taking advantage of her inability to move, should I eliminate this threat right now? My eyes darted over toward Clover. Her dagger had already been unsheathed once again. She kept her eyes locked on me, just waiting for my go-ahead. My thoughts are an open book to this mouse girl, FR. That tense vibe shift was definitely picked up by Lucia, which is why she immediately spoke up. Marilla. Relations between my kind and ground dwellers aren't exactly great, but sinking so low as to turn our weapons on. The very folks who rescued our lives is beneath us. With a slight side-eye, she added, besides, this colony of yours is so broke that nothing around here is even worth taking. Ouch. Low-key true, though. But damn, dropping a fake name on us was still your first move. As I called her out, a smirk touched her lips as my exact words were thrown right back at me. Exercising caution in a joint like this is non-negotiable. Didn't those exact words come from you? Okay, I had to give her that point. Touché. Her tense features noticeably softened after that. As you can tell, all feeling in my body is completely shot right now. So taking my life would require no more effort than wringing a bird's neck. Here was a sky angel invulnerable to artillery fire, stuck completely paralyzed right inside my makeshift outhouse, claiming that putting her down is as simple as butchering poultry. Day 3 on RimWorld is straight up wilding, guys. Paralysis has set in, stated Lucia, remaining as chill as if she were just making small talk about the weather. Complete paralysis across my entire body, most likely induced by whatever payload was inside that shell. A minimum of 6 months will be required to bounce back, if not a whole year. So right now, a literal farm bird has as much utility as you, remarked Clover, as her trusty blade flashed right back into view. Before she could move an inch, I had Clover firmly restrained. To every single issue we encounter, stabbing is this girl's immediate go-to. My assumption was that she was playing bad cop alongside my good cop. But nope, strangers are just something she legitimately hates. Hold up, though. Right from minute 1, her attitude toward me was super sweet. So I'm literally the sole stranger who gets that VIP treatment? Honestly, that low-key hits right in the feels. But getting sentimental right now isn't an option. Time to lock in. Holding Clover back with one arm, I flashed a reassuring smile at Lucia. So, as you were saying, real tech is obviously missing from your setup, right? Our entire situation had already been pieced together by her, based purely on a single glance at us. Stored inside my head is a massive library of tech schematics. So if you nurse me through this paralysis, access to them will be granted to upgrade your settlement. Alternatively, should that prove to be too much hassle, dumping me outside to perish works just fine. Her eyelids drifted shut as if saying, take it or leave it. Clover's gaze shifted directly toward me. How insanely valuable tech schematics wasn't lost on her. Yet she was fully aware that her intelligence stat was sitting at a modest 4. Thus, calling the shots was left completely in my hands. Good girl, getting high-tier tech schematics in year 50. 500. Directly from someone boasting a maxed-out intelligence stat. Talk about temptation. My heart was literally doing backflips in my chest. Rarely does the system ever drop a blueprint into my lap. Instead, that lazy piece of junk plays Ghost Town. Most of the time, counting on it completely is just a total vibe check fail. Sounds like a pretty sweet deal. I chimed in. Lucia snapped her eyes open, all set to lock it down. Yet I kept right on going. I've got a different catch, though. She froze for a second, saying, let's hear it. Come join our colony. I stared straight into her soul. Once you're officially part of our crew, then having your back isn't some business transaction. It's just how we roll around here. I could practically hear her rolling her eyes on the inside. Imagine a high and mighty Marilla signing up for a colony run by a broke human and a mouse with serious knife issues. Talk about a major downgrade. Still, she had 0 cards left to play, and she knew it, grumbling fine. Guess I'm joining your little colony. I waited to see if the system would budge. Not a single peep, 0 alerts popping up. No fancy notifications, proving that just spitting out the words doesn't cut it. She actually has to mean what she says for real. That checks out. Obviously, she was just talking trash to keep herself breathing. No sweat. I totally saw that coming from a mile away. Building real trust takes time, so awesome. You're officially one of us now, I told her. We'll nurse you back to health while you heal up. Now let's get down to business about those blueprints. A tiny flash of pure relief suddenly washed across Lucia's face. She had already braced herself to bite the dust if we gave her the cold shoulder. And beneath all that stubborn pride, she was low-key terrified. Asking us to drag her back to other Marilla out in the open was an option. Except she didn't trust her own people either. Whoever took her down clearly knew her exact coordinates, which meant the real threat could be hiding among her own kind. For the time being, a clueless human. And a bloodthirsty mouse were safest bet by a long shot. What's your terminal code, anyway? She asked. I can beam those blueprints straight over to you. A terminal? I glanced sideways at Clover. Shaking her head, Clover replied, I've got no clue what a terminal is. Lucia's calm exterior instantly shattered. You guys are running a colony, and you don't even own a basic terminal? Hang on, what even is a terminal? I asked in all seriousness. It's a chip wired directly into your brain, used for chatting and transferring data files. Oh, so it's literally a phone. A brain smartphone, got it. Though I can guarantee you, I don't carry one of those around. This system can totally double as a terminal. Terminal code is 25110. The lazy dog system finally decides to pipe up. It had been sitting back in total radio silence, just watching me make a total fool of myself. And now out of nowhere it speaks up. This system comes packed with secret features it never warns me about. Instead, I have to stumble into every single perk the hard way. It feels like buying a smartphone, where the instruction manual is locked deep inside the device, and the phone refuses to give up the password. Actually, come to think of it, they do have something like that. I told Lucia, watching the visible tension drain from her face. She had already been mapping out a mental strategy to survive, getting left behind to rot in the wilderness, with 0 working limbs before I fed her my terminal code. Closing her eyes a second later, she initiated the transfer. My mind felt slightly heavy as a massive wave of fresh data flooded right in. Acquired the electricity blueprint. Acquired the geothermal generator blueprint. An early unlock for electrical tech has just been triggered. Bonus artificial seed blueprint unlocked. Corn seed X1 skill trainer, farming X1 electricity. We've officially got electrical tech. My eyes must have been lit up because Lucia flashed a soft smile. Looks like my care package finally dropped. How is it a game changer? Thanks a ton, Clover gently yanked at my sleeve. What blueprints are those? I grabbed her tiny head and ruffled her hair with pure hype. Electricity and a generator, kiddo. We're getting actual power. Clover's eyes went wide as saucers. Even she completely grasped what electricity implied. She was so caught up in the moment's rush that she totally missed the fact. I've been messing with her hair for the 5th time today. Day 3 colony status check. 1 builder sporting absolute toothpick arms. 1 combat mouse rocking a serious stabbing obsession. And 1 bedridden angel who just handed us the golden ticket to kick off the Industrial Revolution. We might actually pull this off without dying. I dove straight into the electricity specs and was low-key blown away, pun totally intended, by how basic the tech standards are in year 55. Fabricating power lines basically only calls for some processed iron. No fancy alloys, no crazy ultra-rare minerals, just plain iron and more iron. The system map displayed multiple, or deposits right around our base camp. As for smelting it, the system takes care of that seamlessly. The generator demanded a lot more hardware though. Tons of intricate parts, and right at this second. My only source for parts was tearing down whatever junk I already had built. Then reality slapped me like freezing water. The real bottleneck wasn't the materials. It was sheer manpower. Lucia was completely out of commission. Clover's construction and crafting stats were total garbage tier. The lone soul capable of building literally anything was yours truly, one guy with twig arms, carrying an entire industrial revolution completely solo. Once the initial electricity hype settled down, I rubbed my aching temples and began thinking bigger picture, more colonists. That was what we desperately needed, but who in their right mind would sign up for a settlement that couldn't even promise meals? Food? Wait a minute. Hey, Lucia. I blurted out abruptly. Do colonies out here on RimWorld struggle with food supplies? She gave me a perplexed look before replying truthfully. Only a tiny fraction of high-tech settlements. Never stress about meals. Everyone else lives hand-to-mouth. When winter rolls around and those fake seeds stop producing, mass casualties happen every single year without fail. Yes, that was precisely the answer I was hunting for. I pulled up the bonus reward package straight from the system. Corn seeds, X1 fully tailored to harsh rim-world soil properties. Yields organic corn with the first harvest ready in 3 days, and subsequent yields every 12 days after. Maximum growth temperature tolerance capped at 58 degrees. Minimum growth temperature threshold down at 0 degrees. Genuine organic corn, real vegetables. On a hostile planet where actual crops supposedly refuse to sprout, while every other settlement survives on synthetic seed slop and wild berries. I'm literally sitting on seeds capable of growing real, wholesome nourishment. This wasn't merely a food source anymore. This was our ultimate recruitment weapon. So are there literally 0 natural veggies anywhere on RimWorld? Keeping my tone super chill, I tossed out the question. Well, duh, obviously not. Berries are practically the only thing you can forage around here. Any foreign crops from other planets straight up refuse to sprout in this dirt. Do you honestly think that's why barely any aliens even bother showing up here? Narrowing her eyes at me, she snapped, "Why on earth are you suddenly stressing out over random people's dietary drama? Shouldn't you be stressing about your own instead?" "Just asking for a friend," I replied with 0 innocence. Snagging a berry just then, I added, "Speaking of which, you starving or what? Want me to spoon feed you?" Lucia's lips parted to throw an insult, but her tummy spoke up first. Yikes, talk about a loud internal rumble. An awkward silence hung heavy as her gorgeous face flashed bright crimson. Overwhelmed by pure embarrassment, she slammed her eyes shut. Whatever, just let the mouse girl handle it. Fair is fair. Getting fed like a baby is humiliating enough on its own, without a random dude doing it. But wait. Watching the ensuing circus unfold made me nearly die laughing. Clover trotted over clutching a handful of berries. Snatching one up, she shoved her arm straight toward Lucia's face. Trusting the process, Lucia clamped her eyes shut and opened her mouth wide. She looked ready to accept her tragic fate with total dignity. Seconds ticked by, and absolutely nothing happened, yet she kept waiting. Still nothing, forcing her to crack open one suspicious eye. Right at that exact microsecond, a stray berry bonked her, dead center on the forehead before bouncing away. Turns out Clover's hand had been hovering a full arm's length away. She had basically just pitched it like a baseball. "Why the hell are you holding your hand out so far?" Lucia deadpanned. "What? Are you low-key scared I'm going to snap at your fingers?" Pausing for a second, Clover replied, "I mean, you can't totally rule that out." With complete, unfiltered sincerity, Clover kept talking. "Sure, I've got plenty of reps. Handling unconscious folks. And straight-up corpses. But taking care of a living, breathing person is a first for me. So cut me some slack, I'm kind of shook." "Dead bodies? That's her frame of reference?" A violent twitch rippled through Lucia. "Look, I'm basically a human corpse right now anyway. So just treat me like one." "Hold on, a real corpse's mouth doesn't randomly open and close like that. Can you close yours first, please? If I close my mouth, how am I supposed to eat anything?" "Well, I could literally pry your jaw open, drop the berry inside, and manually pump your chin up and down to fake the chewing process." "Stop. Seriously, stop talking right now," pleaded a deeply horrified Lucia. A spine-chilling wave washed over her, which was wild considering she couldn't even feel her spine. In a flash, it hit her. Letting Clover feed her was a catastrophic blunder. This mouse girl wasn't just clueless. She'd literally been trying to flatline her 10 minutes ago. "You take over," she groaned, staring right at me with a totally defeated look. Giving a casual shrug, I stepped up to the plate. "Relax, Clover, I've got this covered from here." Nodding with relief, Clover chirped, "Awesome. I'll go forage some more bushes then. We're gonna need a lot more grub for 3 people now." Glancing down at Lucia's chest area for a second, Clover then looked at her own flat torso and muttered something under her breath about how that bird person probably ate like a horse. Before Clover could wander off, I pulled out a stash of corn seeds straight from the system. Right in the inventory, honestly. "Hey, Clover, see that abandoned field nearby?" Her head tilted as she suggested trying to plant these. "Food seeds, corn seeds, actual corn." Her tail shot straight up into the air. With eyes sparkling, she asked 0 questions. Showing complete trust, she shouted, "I'll plant them right now." She zoomed off, leaving me to turn back toward Lucia. "All right, lie still." "Feeding time," I said, while she stared at me like I was a total idiot. I'm completely paralyzed from the neck down. What else am I supposed to do, cartwheels? Ignoring Lucia's absolute death glare, I crouched down right next to her. "Do you want me to prop you up against the wall to eat?" "No need, just feed me like this. We Marilla aren't nearly as fragile as you humans." Some dry grass was tucked under her head by me, to make things more comfortable. While I was at it, my hand reached up and poked her golden halo. Straight through it went my hand. It's not even solid. It's some hologram, magic, or whatever passes for normal when you're literally a sky angel. Curious about my halo? She asked. Yeah. Is it technology? Were you born with it? Does it actually do anything? All Marilla have them from birth. It doesn't do anything useful. It's just a symbol of our kind. A symbol? You got a 10-foot wingspan, and a glowing ring hovering right over your head. And you still need more symbols? As her position was adjusted by me, Lucia finally got a good look at herself. The bandages caught her attention. Strips of her own ruined lab coat, mixed with some blue fabric. Her eyes flicked straight to my shredded shirt sleeves. The very sleeves that were missing, because I tore them off to bandage her up. Something flickered deep within those ice blue eyes. Not a single word was said about it by her. Open up, I said softly, holding out a berry while she obediently opened her mouth. The berry was placed in, and I watched her chew, swallow, open again, and repeat. It was very mechanical and extremely compliant. You're being surprisingly cooperative, I noted, adding that at least 3 insults were expected by now. You're so noisy. Are you the type who gets excited when a woman scolds you? Sadly, no. Why is that even something to be sad about? After feeding her, I stood up and dusted off my hands. I've got work to do, so get some rest. If you need anything, just call me through the terminal. Without answering, her eyes closed shut. I was halfway out the door when she spoke right up. If you lack fabric, you can hunt animals and use their leather and fur to craft warm clothing. Turning back, I asked, are you actually worrying about me? Humans are fragile, and if you freeze to death, my own situation gets much worse too. Classic Lucia, looking out for me, while pretending she only cares about herself. A smile crossed my face. By the way, I never actually introduced myself. I'm John Ling, and that mouse girl is Clover. I have zero interest in your names. Just go back to your work I left behind me. Wrapped in the heavy silence of the cabin, mumbled words spilled softly from her lips. Zhongling. Honestly, that's a wild moniker even for Rimworld standards. And get this, the mouse was named 4-Leaf. Wait, 5-leaf marijuana? Nah, scrap that. My brain is lagging on 4-leaf. 5-leaf marijuana. Oh, right, it's just clover. 3-leaf clover. How does a brain with 20 intelligence? Totally blue screen on a basic name, anyway. Leatherweight. Lucia actually had a valid point. Proper clothes were an absolute must before I froze solid. Counting on Clover for a hunt mitt. We'd finally score some actual meat, because living off berries was getting real old, real fast. Making my way to the patch, I spotted Clover right away, spread flat on her stomach, right next to the freshly turned dirt, her nose hovering inches from the ground, laser focused on where she'd just planted the corn seeds. What are you even doing? Waiting for them to magically sprout. Yeah, she replied, popping up and nodding with total sincerity. I want to munch on some corn ASAP, she added, wiping a streak of drool off her chin. Staring at dirt definitely wasn't going to speed things up, so I gave her head a pat, which she didn't even flinch at anymore. Hey, I'd successfully conditioned her into accepting head pats. Major W. Come with me over to my hibernation pod. I'm going to try stripping it down for raw materials, all right? 0 questions, 0 hesitation. Just an instant green light, because that's classic Clover for you. We tracked the system map leading toward the pod, sitting right on the outer rim of my radar, though thankfully not too far off. A few stray critters crossed our path along the route. Potential meals if Clover's tracking instincts matched her deadly combat skills. We were almost there when I suddenly locked up. Hold up, I blurted, throwing my arm out to halt Clover in her tracks. What's wrong, boss? 2 blips had just popped up at the edge of my interface map, marching straight in our direction. Every single internal alarm started blaring at once. Hi now. We scrambled to dive into the dense brush right by the hibernation pod. Seconds later, a pair of dark-skinned men stepped out from the tree line. Both were absolute units, but one was built like an actual tank, easily towering a full size over me, resembling a human-shaped grizzly bear. I ran their stats through the system instantly. The heavy hitter was Abarugo Nabarace, sporting a melee fighting level of 9 and a shooting level of 2. Sure, his melee skill was 9, while Clover clocked in at 12. But this guy literally had double her mass, and I had 0 desire to see how that brawl would play out. The second guy, Nyakasu, was of the frog race, boasting a melee level of 6 and a heavy shooting level of 9, which pretty much guaranteed he was packing heat. My heart was hammering so violently, I could literally hear it thumping in my eardrums. Please just keep walking past us. Just keep on walking past. Hey Naba, Check this out. The guy nicknamed Frog sprinted straight toward our hibernation pod, his eyes lighting up like Christmas. It's an actual hibernation pod. If we scrap this thing, we can flip the silver for a ridiculous amount of food. Mi hibernation pot. The exact materials I had planned to salvage for myself. And these two absolute clowns were trying to run off with it. I turned my head toward Clover, intending to plot our next move. A single peek totally fried my brain cells. Out came a weapon from Clover's hands. Neither a dagger nor a simple knife. A silver revolver appeared, leaving me wondering where she snagged it. She had been packing heat this whole time. With a shooting level of 16, I knew that stat wasn't just for show. Yet I genuinely didn't expect her to be strapped. Hunkered low inside a thick bush was this tiny mouse girl, clutching a revolver. As casually as if it were an everyday accessory. Those striking golden eyes locked onto the two strangers. Completely deadpan, proving day 3 just got real interesting. Those golden eyes shifted back to gaze at me. No words were spoken, just a silent inquiry hanging in the air, asking if she should fire while I opened my mouth, shut it tight, and then murmured, "Your call, honestly." If these two were simply hunting for the hibernation pod, I would gladly let them have it since materials aren't worth dying over. Yet I'm still a newcomer here. Clover navigates this harsh world way better than I do. So her judgment won my full trust while Clover stayed completely still, keeping the revolver locked in a steady grip, and tracking the two men like a feline eyeing helpless mice. Ironic, considering she actually was a mouse. Then the bigger guy, Naba, finally broke the silence by declaring the pod empty. With a nod, the frog guy replied, "Yeah." So what does that imply? Whoever was hiding inside must have already vanished, and they're probably still lurking close by. A creepy, chilling grin spread across Naba's face. We can hunt them down, shred them into pieces, and turn them into tasty beef jerky snacks. Frog's eyes lit up as he gasped, "You're so smart, Naba. Footprints are marked right here on the dirt. If we track them down, we score ourselves some fresh meat, tear them into strips, and make jerky." My brain required a solid 3 full seconds to process those twisted words because those guys weren't ordinary thieves. They turned out to be absolute cannibals. And the fresh meat they were tracking happened to be me. Pure adrenaline shot straight up my spine from my soles to my crown. Every single hair on my body spiked on end. Hostiles were officially confirmed with zero ambiguity. No gray area existed here, since these psychos wanted to eat me. Clover tightened her grip even harder on the revolver handle, asking me in a whisper how confident I felt about this. Answering 100%, I told her to take the skinny one first since he likely packed a gun, giving a nod without a single ounce of hesitation. In zero doubt, she stood right up. As the branches rustled, Frog's head instantly whipped toward us, demanding who's there while his hand lunged toward his belt, reaching for a concealed weapon, though Clover proved way quicker. Bang went a single shot. A crisp, definitive gunshot reverberating through the woods. Frightened birds scattered instantly from the tree branches. Frog's fingertips had merely brushed against his gun handle, and he never managed to get any further than that. A neat bullet hole materialized dead center, right across his forehead. Crimson blood gushed down his face like a falling red curtain. He crashed straight back down to the ground, completely done for, leaving Naba to spin around in panic, scrambling desperately for some cover. It didn't matter how high his combat level happened to be. Fleeing for his life was the only viable move against actual firepower. Yet Clover was already positioned right behind him. Her lightning-fast movement completely eluded my eyes. Standing right in front of me a split second ago, she materialized on his back like a phantom moments later, springing onto the neck of that giant man double her size. She slashed across his throat with a flashing dagger. Amidst the splashing blood, Naba frantically grabbed his neck, gasping for air while choking on his own crimson fluids. Rolling his eyes all the way back, he desperately tried to spot his executioner. A second devastating blow was dealt by Clover, striking straight into his skull. Splattered droplets of gore stained her pale complexion, collapsing hard onto the earth like a chopped-down tree. His very last sight before death was actually me, emerging slowly from the dense brush. I was the one who truly ended him. Not a single glimpse of her did he ever catch. Level 12 pitted against Level 9. They were separated by merely 3 tiers on paper. Yet Clover obliterated both adversaries within seconds, treating them like absolute nada because stats mean jack. Not even close, I thought while staring at the 2 corpses, the pooling blood and the twisted expressions frozen on them. My stomach plummeted violently, though this violence is standard here. I'm fully aware the Rim world operates purely on bloodshed, but coming from a peaceful era myself, never in my life had I laid eyes on a dead body, let alone 2 fresh casualties, leaking gore all over the damp forest floor. Wiping her trusty blade clean of residue, Clover sheathed it and walked over toward me. What's wrong? You look green as grass. Is this your first time seeing corpses up close? I confessed, forcing a tight grin onto my pale visage. Crouching down beside her, I gently cleared the smears of blood from her tiny cheeks. You aren't hurt. Her face flushed pink under my touch. Shaking her head no, she locked me in a prolonged gaze. A heavy weight settled deep inside my chest. Had Clover not stumbled upon my hibernation pod first, arriving just 2 days later instead, these 2 thugs would have found my helpless, unconscious self and turned me straight into human jerky. Not a single system in existence could have saved me then. Pulling Clover tightly into my arms, I embraced her hard. Looking upward, she offered a confused expression. What's all this about? Nothing. I spoke up. I'm just low-key. So glad that the very first person I found was you. She quieted down entirely within my embrace. For a long stretch, neither of us uttered a word. I could feel her small, warm body pressed against my ribs, her breathing remaining steady and calm. Meeting you makes me feel lucky too, she murmured softly. Her words carried barely above a whisper. She shared this with me later on, not right at that instant. Yet I could sense that prior to my arrival, she had already made peace with dying in solitude, starving out in the harsh wilderness, perishing by raiders' hands, or simply fading away, having nothing left to live for and no one to miss her. She didn't care anymore, but listening to my heartbeat now, something shifted inside her, sparking a will to survive. We lingered like that for a while. Once I finally released her, the dead bodies on the ground no longer bother me nearly as much, remaining silent following our embrace. Clover trotted along behind me, looking somewhat dazed, as though her mind was still trying to process thoughts. She lacked the vocabulary for a time. Suddenly struck by a thought, she pivoted around and jogged back toward the pair of lifeless bodies to scavenge whatever useful gear remained. Per usual, I strolled over to my hibernation pod and pressed my palm right against it. A blinding wash of white light instantly swallowed the whole rig. As the glow finally faded, that sci-fi coffin which had dropped me into this wasteland had turned into a messy heap of raw materials. Down on the earth, some processed iron, a batch of strange silver steel, plus a handful of tiny components. The construction looked way simpler than I anticipated. It was undeniably useful, like super clutch. Date 3 down, body count at 2 aggressive cannibals. 0 regrets here, and the colony MVP is officially locked in. A pint-sized mouse girl rocking a revolver and a dagger, while possessing literally 0 chill. From among the pile of broken-down scrap, I picked up a rather odd piece of steel. It glowed light blue and took the shape of a diamond bar, resembling cloudy glass on the surface, though it completely blocked out any sunlight, and felt shockingly light for its actual size. That's glass steel, Clover chimed in right from behind me. It's a super tough metal, she paused briefly. Great for making insanely sharp weapons. Weapons would be awesome. Except I don't even have a forge to actually craft any gear. Sure, the system can shape objects, but without proper smithing equipment, anything I throw together would have about the structural integrity of a soggy saltine. I'll just stash it for later use. Now, the real puzzle is how to haul all this junk back. Staring hard down at the mound of materials, a sudden brainstorm hit me out of nowhere. Hey system, can I tuck items away inside your inventory space? How on earth did I completely blank on this? For days I've been pulling loot out of thin air, via system storage, yet never once tried sliding anything back in. The system currently provides 1 cubic meter of storage capacity. Expand your colony limits to unlock extra inventory space. Note, provisions stored in system space will never spoil, though living creatures cannot be contained. You've had this exact feature this whole time and stayed quiet? I literally had to spell out the question. At this point, I was practically screaming inside my head. Operating this system feels like playing a brutal video game, with 0 instructions where every single misstep gets you killed. There are no hints, no helpful tips, no friendly nudge like, oh, by the way, you own a magical pocket dimension. It's total radio silence until I stumble upon a hidden feature, solely by guessing the correct prompt. I planted my hand flat against the material pile and willed the entire stash into storage. With a quick white flash, everything vanished cleanly away. Clover's fluffy ears twitched sharply as she asked, "What was that?" Advanced storage tech, just a perk of my background science. Storage tech. She tilted her head in curiosity. Then why didn't you use it sooner? My face instantly froze as I faked a couple of coughs. I'm still wrapping my head around all my tech capabilities. I honestly just figured this feature out. Oh, she accepted the explanation right away, not dropping a single follow-up question. Man, gotta love this girl's absolute blind trust. Right after that, she handed me something new. A holster belt featuring a protruding pistol grip caught the eye. She had straight up looted it right off Frog's corpse. Of course she did, as I pulled the gun out. The firearm was a dark handgun whose model eluded me entirely. Even so, it resembled a standard-issue pistol. That same vibe applied to Clover's revolver, too. We were chilling in the 56th century, yet guns looked identical to this. Had firearms technology genuinely peaked? A couple millennia back, causing everyone to collectively agree that, yeah, this works fine. Here's the M02. A small handful of rounds was handed over to me by Clover. Supplies are low, so don't go wasting them. Considering my level 3 shooting skill, along with precisely 0 combat experience. Every single bullet I fired was practically a donation to the sky, unless a life-or-death crisis hit. Touching the trigger wasn't even an option. Yet the fact remained that Clover gave me the gun, without a second thought, giving me the actual capacity to threaten her life. While she simply didn't care. She just handed it over casually as if it were a snack. The system space was where I stored the gun and ammo. Instead of the holster, and Clover didn't even blink. She had already accepted the reality that my tech could pull off some seriously weird stuff. Those have been searched too, she noted, revealing nothing else useful. Head back. A glance at the system map showed me animals dotting the surroundings, and an idea popped into my head. Clover, could I ask you a favor? What's up? Hunt an animal for me. Some fur and hide are required to make clothes. Her gaze drifted down to my shredded shirt, which featured more holes than actual fabric now, making her eyes go wide. All right, animal fur for clothes is something I should have thought of earlier. Go ahead, because I'll head back to the colony first. Okay, but I'm walking you out of the forest first. An escort to the tree line was provided by her, before she sprinted off to hunt. Talk about a bodyguard and personal shopper combo. Back at the colony, things got busy for me. The store materials were dumped out immediately. Some nearby stones were collected, and a system was used to process them into stone bricks. Those bricks were stacked. An iron pot was forged. Not top-tier quality without a proper forge, though completely fine for cooking. And a simple outdoor stove was constructed. Putting a fire inside our wooden house was out of the question. Staying alive without burning to crisp was preferred. Next up, the building of a sewing table commenced. If Clover was going to bring back animal hide, working equipment was an absolute necessity. The map was checked while working, revealing Clover had spotted her target, a snow cow, which was a blue-furred bovine. Judging strictly by the name, it looked intensely cold-resistant. That fur would make a warm coat, proving it was a smart choice. Completion of the sewing table happened a few hours later. Wiping sweat from my forehead, my own craftsmanship was admired. Not bad at all. The map was checked once more. Clover had already taken down the snow cow, and was currently in the process of dragging it back, approaching the colony already. This girl was hauling an entire cow all by herself, across the harsh wilderness. Smacking my own forehead, I sprinted in her direction. Approximately 100 meters out, she was found. Her face was flushed, and she was completely out of breath, dragging a massive blue-furred cow carcass right behind her, as if it were nothing more than a flimsy grocery bag. That beast easily tipped the scales at no less than 300 kilos. Stepping in to grab the other end, I helped lug the heavy load back together. By the time we finally dropped it near the colony, Clover was gasping desperately for oxygen. Her cheeks bright red as she wheezed out, "Is this enough?" "More than enough," I told her, giving her head an apologetic pat. "I'm so sorry. Seriously, take a breather. You've totally earned it, and honestly, this was my bad." I caught sight of her tracking on the map, and just assumed she would magically figure out the heavy lifting part. My brain completely glossed over the fact that a tiny mouse, girl paired with a 300-kilogram beef mountain, makes for a pretty terrible logistics combo. Clover plopped right down beside me, munching on berries, while staring at the newly built stove and sewing table with pure awe, walking a circle around the snow cow. I couldn't help but admire the sheer size of it. It was an absolute unit, featuring only a single neat bullet hole planted right between the eyes. One shot, one kill, no wasted effort. Clover definitely doesn't waste ammo. Pressing my hand flat against the hide, I triggered the decompose command. A bright flash of white light erupted, and boom, the skin, fur, meat, and skeleton were all cleanly separated in an instant. Wait a minute, it actually worked without a butchering table? I literally had a butchering table, blueprint queued up and ready to go and everything. Apparently, the system just took care of it automatically. I'll take the W. That is one less thing I have to build. The fur was still dripping with blood, though, meaning it needed a good wash and dry before I could stitch anything. In the meantime, however, I turned my gaze toward the towering mountain of fresh beef and asked, "Clover wants some meat?" Hearing the word meat, she rocketed to her feet, like a spring-loaded missile, her eyes blazing as she yelled, "Yes. Today we feast on beef, completely unseasoned. No extra spices, no salt, absolutely nothing." All I could manage was mashing some wild berries into a makeshift jam to smear across the surface. Talk about frontier cooking at its absolute finest. Flicking on the stove, I slapped the rinsed steak directly into the iron pot. The furious sizzle that followed was easily the most gorgeous sound I had heard ever since setting foot on this alien planet. A rich, mouth-watering aroma of roasting meat drifted everywhere. Clover parked herself right next to the burner, sitting quietly while repeatedly swallowing her own overflowing drool. Her glowing eyes were glued to that steak, as if the piece of meat owed her money. Meanwhile, back inside the old shack, I am pretty sure Lucia was just lying there in the dark, staring blankly at the ceiling while inhaling the scent of cooked meat, and wondering if we had completely forgotten she even existed. Right in the middle of cooking, I decided to ask Clover something that had been nagging in my mind. Had she seriously never tried cooking meat on her own? Given that she possesses solid hunting skills and carries proper weapons, why was she surviving purely on berries? Her expression scrunched up as the memory came back to her. I actually hunted down some animals and threw the meat straight onto an open fire. She admitted, pausing. It either turned straight to charcoal or stayed totally raw, and I just ended up wasting bullets. The terminal log explicitly flagged her 0 cooking skills. I honestly figured that warning was just cap. Turns out it was dead serious. This chick can easily dome a guy from a mile away, hidden deep in the brush. Yet somehow basic culinary arts completely defeat her. Life really balances out in weird ways sometimes. I handed over the freshly cooked steak, slathered in berry jam with 0 plates in sight. Skipping forks and knives entirely, dropping right onto the dirt floor, she snatched it up with both paws, devouring every bite like an ecstatic wolf pup. Skewered meat sticks were prepped specifically for Lucia. Holding a heavy steak was out of the question with useless limbs. Tender chunks of beef got threaded onto wooden sticks by my hand, then slowly roasted over the flickering open campfire. Approaching the rotting wooden shack, I gave the door a rap. "Come on," and came the reply as that stale odor had totally vanished into something much softer. Her own unique scent filled the room after locking down inside all day, making it feel way cozier. "You didn't need a knock," she muttered, "since my entire routine is sleeping or ceiling gazing. 0 chance of interrupting anything wild going on in here, habit." I replied, thirsty for some H2O. "Need me to grab water?" "The terminal's right there if anything pops up, so chill out," she added casually. Actual surprise flickered across her face at the polite knock. Decency apparently registered as a foreign language to her, considering our brutal era. That honestly checks out. Take a look at what I whipped up. The meat skewers slid out from behind my back with a grin. What crazy timing joining the colony, right as our first decent feast drops. If this counts as lucky timing, I would rather hard pass. Stop being negative, look on the bright side. Keep your head up. Things could easily be way worse than this setup. Right, the skewer pressed gently against her lips. Time to eat, realization dawned as she noticed the modified sticks, crafted exclusively for her hands. Deep emotion briefly softened her gaze. Then her lips parted to bite off a savory piece. Slow chewing commenced while her eyes widened just a tiny fraction. "Did you mix something weird into this?" A thumbs up was my only reply, featuring sweet jam. Jam was incorporated. Are you seriously quoting ancient internet memes from millennia ago? My spirit literally detached from my body, missing the joke entirely. 0 souls breathing in a year, 5,500 recognize my pop culture references. Total cultural isolation defines my existence across the cosmos. Being an interdimensional transmigrator comes with heavy emotional tolls. Your favorite memes perish alongside your home epic. Remaining kebabs disappeared down her throat in gloomy silence. Water followed before displaying the empty tempered glass, salvaged straight from the cryo-hibernation unit. Premium-grade resources, she noted. What's your blueprint for these shards? No clue yet, which explains why your input is needed. Thorough examination occupied her thoughts. Stash it away and harvest more whenever possible. Once full mobility returns, something useful can be crafted for you. She left the conversation hanging like a cliffhanger. Pressing further felt unnecessary high-tech gear from the 56th century. Definitely piqued my curiosity. Anything else required before my departure? Inquiry slipped out for the first instance ever. An instant flat refusal failed to materialize. Soft pink blush instead spread across her cheeks. Fumbling over her words, she stammered out Well, with her eyes squeezed shut, what could she possibly want? Just head outside right now and send the mouse girl in. Oh, totally got it. Stepping out of the shack, I spotted Clover stretched flat on her back. A look of pure bliss crossed her face as she patted her stuffed belly. How was it? Was it delicious? She smiled with her eyes tightly shut. Honestly, I've never tasted anything that good in my entire life. Man, that meal hit different. Having spent a brutal winter alone, eating nothing but berries, a simple steak topped with berry jam became the absolute best meal of her life. Can you get up now? Lucia needs your help with something, okay? Clover hurried inside the shack. Left waiting outside, I felt mildly curious. What could Lucia possibly need? Why did the task specifically require a girl to help out? A minute later, Clover emerged carrying an armload full of random stuff. Dry grass that had been used for bedding, a dress, a pair of white stockings, along with a pair of white panties. Oh snap. She needed her bedding completely swapped out, along with a fresh change of clothes and undergarments. All of these chores required someone to undress her completely paralyzed body, and that someone could definitely not be me. Mystery solved, and it was a question I wish I'd never asked. But let's answer it and move on immediately. Noticing me staring blankly at the pile of laundry, Clover helpfully explained. The grass bedding got damp and desperately needed replacing, while her clothes, made of quick-dry material, should be totally wearable again in about an hour. Thanks a lot, Clover. I seriously did not need that detailed explanation. I was doing fine actively not thinking about it. But now my brain started doing the math. If her underwear is out here and Lucia is currently in there, then right now she's Giving a fake cough, I rubbed my nose vigorously to forcefully eject that image right out of my head. Are you catching a cold or something? Clover asked innocently. Nope, it's nothing. Let's head down and wash this cowhide together right now. Down by the rushing stream. Clover took care of Lucia's clothes, while I aggressively scrubbed the snow cowhide clean. Very productive, very normal vibes here, with zero thoughts about anything else. Glancing upstream, I wondered out loud, since there's a river, could there be other colonies further up? Clover shook her head, saying, I explored pretty far in every direction, while I was out foraging for food, upstream included. And I didn't see any people. Those two guys we ran into today aren't from a nearby colony, though it probably isn't too far away either. They likely showed up because of that massive explosion in the sky yesterday when Lucia got shot down. That loud racket drew unwanted attention, which spelled major trouble. If those two cannibals fail to return, their colony will definitely send more scouts to investigate. It's honestly just a matter of time before we get discovered. Sure, we buried the bodies before we took off, but that's a temporary fix at best. I'm gonna need some serious weapons and defenses soon. Meanwhile, the cowhide still needed to dry overnight. Materials for apparel could be fashioned out of it tomorrow. The extra beef was safely tucked away inside the system storage. Meat spoils at lightning speed, yet system storage preserves groceries fresh for all eternity. That is another perk the lazy system kept secret from me, until every task was finally completed. Stretching my sore limbs, I gazed out at the dusk. Bedtime is almost here. How vibe check? An alert suddenly broke the peaceful evening calm. An unknown colonist has breached colony territory. Panic gripped my chest as I violently swiped open the map. A single silhouette was approaching from the west, coming straight from the exact path of this morning's cannibals. They dispatched someone else this quick? No way. Toggling the figure's icon on screen, I braced for the absolute worst. Devin Gunther. Race, human. Shooting skill, none. This colonist is entirely incapable of engaging in violence. Fighting level, none. This specific colonist cannot participate in violence. Incapable of violence entirely. What kind of living soul literally cannot throw a punch or fire a gun? Keeping my guard up, I called out to Clover immediately. A random stranger is heading straight in our direction. Her laid-back post-dinner expression vanished in a split second, clutching a dagger in one hand and a revolver in the other. Her eyes turned razor-sharp, asking, "Which way from the west?" "Let's go check it out," as we replicated our previous tactical setup. I took the lead to converse while Clover lurked nearby with her firearm, locked onto the stranger's head. If anything goes sideways, bang goes the neighborhood. He was spotted deep in the forest near Lukia's crash crater. He looked like a slender, brown-haired man dressed in immaculate white priestly robes, carrying zero weapons or gear. He was just strolling through the woods in religious attire, as if this were a relaxing Sunday walk instead of a death planet, staring intently at the dried bloodstains inside the crater. He muttered to himself, "The impact happened recently. This ought to be the exact spot." But where on earth did the sky spirit wander off to? A sky spirit? He is searching for Lucia. Stepping out from behind him with my weapon raised, I commanded, "Freeze right there. Who the heck are you?" Whirling around abruptly, the man threw both palms high into the air in submission. "Whoa, whoa." He blurted out rapidly, "Zero hostility here. I am Devin Gunther, a missionary representing the Heavenly Wing Church. I came looking for a sky spirit, a Marilla who might have sustained injuries." His entire identity and motive were spilled in 2 seconds flat. This dude possessed absolutely zero poker face skills. His stats indicated he was fundamentally incapable of violence, and his actual behavior proved it completely. He practically radiated intense, "Please don't shoot me" energy. Lowering my firearm just a fraction, I processed it. The Heavenly Wing Church meant he was hunting for Lucia. Yet, why would he care about Lucia? Rumor had it Marillas and ground dwellers never got along well. Devin kept his hands lifted high, wearing a warm smile, even though a gun had been pointed right at his face moments prior. Not a single shred of judgment crossed his face regarding my ragged clothes. Props to him for that, as the Heavenly Wing Church is a faith, completely devoted to the sky spirits. He explained with eager enthusiasm. Decades ago, we shared close ties with them, blessing us with incredible knowledge and power. That era marked a true golden age for our religious order. A familiar glint suddenly started flashing in his eyes. Ánh mắt lóe lên về cuồng tín tôn giáo. Cuối cùng thì các thần linh bầu trời cũng cắt đứt mọi liên lạc với bọn tôi. Nhưng tụi tôi chưa từng ngừng việc tìm kiếm họ, với hy vọng thu hút lại được ánh nhìn thiêng liêng ấy. Rồi gã quay phát sang tôi với thứ năng lượng của một kẻ cuồng tín chính hiệu. "Bạn Hiền, có hứng thú gia nhập giáo phái thiên dược không? Khi bọn tôi giành lại được sự sủng ái từ thần bầu trời, cả cậu cũng sẽ nhận được những tri thức vượt ngoài tầm tưởng tượng của người thường đấy." Gã đang cố lôi kéo tôi vào một giáo phái dị giáo, ngay giữa khung cảnh rừng thiên nước độc. Trong lúc chú chuột sát thủ tí xíu của tôi đang chĩa thẳng khẩu súng lục vào sọ gã. Từ trong bóng tối ngày thứ ba đáng lẽ phải khép lại thật êm mà. Thay vào đó, tôi lại đang bị tẩy não bởi một linh mục theo chủ nghĩa hòa bình, kẻ đang tôn thờ vị thiên thần bại liệt, nằm trần trụi trong cái lời vệ sinh của tôi. Cái thế giới này đúng là không để cho ai yên. Khoan đã nào. Tôi vội ngắt lời đi vong trước khi gã kịp bật mốt thuyết giáo. "Cái thế lực thần bầu trời mà cậu đang nhắc tới ấy, cậu đã tận mắt thấy bao giờ chưa? Hay tất cả chỉ là nghe hơi nổi gió từ đâu thế?" Khuôn mặt gã giật giật. "Thần bầu trời hoàn toàn có thật đấy nhé. Giáo hội của bọn tôi đã dò ra tung tích của họ. Đó là lý do tôi có mặt ở đây." Rồi gã chợt sực nhớ ra nhiệm vụ chính của mình. "Bạn Hiền, có thấy vị thần bầu trời nào quanh đây không? Chiếu theo ghi chép của chúng tôi, họ cư ngụ tại thành phố trên mây Calido, với đôi cánh trắng muốt sau lưng, vầng hào quang tỏa sáng trên đầu, và vẻ đẹp khiến mọi thứ dưới mặt đất trở nên lu mờ hoàn toàn. Thành phố trên mây Calido, cái này thì mới mẻ nha. Lucia chưa từng đả động gì đến chuyện đó." Tôi vẫn giữ nguyên nét mặt vô cảm tỉnh bơ. Tôi chưa từng thấy thứ gì như vậy bao giờ. Làm gì có loài sinh vật nào trông giống thế được cơ chứ? Thế giới này lắm điều kỳ diệu lắm bạn Hiền à. Gã mỉm cười thân thiện. "Thế cậu tên là gì thế?" Giang Lăng. "Giang Lăng. Với Giang là họ, còn Lăng là tên đấy nhé." "Thì ra là Lăng, tôi hiểu rồi. Hay là chúng ta trao đổi mã thiết bị liên lạc đi." Tên này đúng là đỉnh cao. 2 phút trước, tôi còn đang chĩa súng vào mặt gã, mà giờ gã đã lân la đòi kết bạn Facebook vũ trụ rồi. Muốn nói gì về mấy tay truyền giáo thì tùy, nhưng kỹ năng giao thiệp của họ thì đúng là đỉnh chóp, không ai bị kịp. Tôi lướt kiểm tra lại chỉ số của gã lần nữa. Cấp độ xã hội 10, chuẩn không cần chỉnh. Gã đọc lầu lầu mã thiết bị của mình mà chẳng cần tôi phải mở lời hỏi, đồng thời không quên cất lời xin lỗi vì hành vi đột nhập. Giáo phái thiên dược rất đề cao hòa bình đấy lăng à. Xin đừng để bùng chuyện này nhé. Ưa chuộng hòa bình ngay giữa lòng di môn á. Nơi mà người ta sẵn sàng mổ thịt đồng loại ra làm thịt khô cơ đấy. Thôi được rồi nhưng lăng này. Tôi rất mong cậu sẽ để mắt giúp bất kỳ dấu hiệu nào của thần bầu trời nếu phát hiện ra manh mối. Hãy liên lạc với tôi qua thiết bị liên lạc nhé. Bọn tôi sẽ hậu tạ cậu thật xứng đáng. Có vụ hậu tạ cơ à, tôi cố tình đưa tay xoa cằm. Vẻ mặt đầy tham lam, tôi sẽ cố gắng hết sức. Vô cùng cảm ơn cậu, vậy tôi xin phép lưu trước. Rồi gã quay lưng thản nhiên bước đi. Hoàn toàn không một chút sợ hãi. Vô cùng bình tĩnh và nhởn nhơ. The mere thought that a bullet could easily catch him from behind crossed my mind. He was either showing insane trust or acting totally brainless. Spinning around just a couple of paces later. Ling, are you sure you won't consider joining the Heavenly Wing Church? Now I'll pass thanks. Though if you change your mind. The offer stands, and he was gone. Clover emerged right out of the shadows. The exact split second he vanished. Was he here looking for the bird person? Giving a nod, I replied, Lucia seems very important to them, and I think he already suspects we have her. Then why didn't we just waste him? She made a throat-slitting gesture, casual as ordering coffee. I rubbed her head with a tired smile. We can't make enemies everywhere. Let's head back at the colony. After Clover got Lucia dressed again, I waited outside, thank you. I went in to tell Lucia about our visitor. Heavenly Wing Church, her brow furrowed instantly. You've had contact with him. Just one missionary, he was looking for you. I shrugged, didn't know you had a fan club. Fan club, she scoffed. Jiangling, if you trust me at all, stay away from the Heavenly Wing Church. I do trust you. That's why I didn't tell him you were here. So what's the real story between you and the church? I asked. It's not as friendly as that missionary made it sound. Is it she didn't answer directly? Instead, if they had the ability to track a Marilla, why could they only detect where I crashed, but not where I am right now? Lying in this shack, the implication hit me like a truck. If I'm not mistaken, that cannon shell was theirs. And my paralysis isn't just from a fall. It was built into the weapon. They shot her down on purpose. They wanted her alive, but helpless. The church that worships sky spirits was the one who blew her out of the sky. If that's true, Lucia continued. Her ice blue eyes locked on mine. Then I should actually be thanking you. If you hadn't found me first, I'd either have bled to death or ended up in their hands. Her situation was almost identical to mine, dropped into a hostile world helpless, saved by the first kind person who found her. I was saved by Clover, she was saved by us. You're part of our colony now. I said, whatever happens, I'll do everything I can to protect you. Something flickered in her eyes, barely visible, gone in an instant. She closed them. It's getting dark. I should rest, sleep well. I closed the door behind me. I had a feeling she didn't sleep for a long time. After that day, 10 of the green phase. Year 5500 spring was 2/3 over. The air was getting slightly warmer, slightly. I grabbed the snow cow hide. The damp hide had been hanging out to dry all night long. Finally, today was the day for proper, actual outfits. I was dead set on crafting a snow cow leather coat. Down at the workstation. Basic garment patterns came included with the sewing table blueprint. So I had literally everything I could possibly need. Getting right to work, I laid the raw hide flat across the sewing table. Clover rolled out of bed a little later, wandered over to watch me stitch, and honestly, try as I might, she simply perched right beside me, quietly observing for ages. Too locked into notice at the time. I was oblivious to how intensely she was analyzing my every move. Later on, she would open up about what was running through her head right then, reminiscing about how totally pathetic I seemed when she first found me. So helpless that she almost felt bad for me, and how certain she was that I would bite the dust in 2 days flying solo, explaining that she only took me in because I looked harmless. Plus, she was super lonely back when I was basically a total noob, clueless about how survival worked on this rim world, munching nonstop and failing to even chop down a single tree. My only redeeming quality was sniffing out berry bushes using my magical little map interface. Oh, and those hands of mine, which kept magically wandering up to pet her head. Without any kind of permission at all, I finally bound off the scarf, got up from my stool, and handed it straight to Clover. Checking out what I made, she stared at it wide-eyed. A genuine snow, cow, fur winter scarf, offering it as a little token to return the favor for the one she gave me. Squatting down low, I carefully draped it around her shoulders, looping it over just like she had done for me earlier. She stayed completely frozen in place, the entire time, locking her gaze directly into mine, not even twitching a muscle that fits you super well. I chuckled, asking how it felt against her skin, slowly lifting up her tiny hands. She gripped the ends of the scarf, then buried the lower half of her face deep into the fluffy blue fur. Silence hung heavily in the room for a long beat. Whispering softly, she admitted it was warm, even cozier than her old one, prompting me to smile as I turned back to my station. Suddenly, a firm grip caught my hand and refused to let go. Spinning back around in surprise, I asked, "Clover, is something the matter?" Ignoring my question, she simply guided my hand upward and rested it right back on top of her head, looking up at me through upturned lashes. Her eyes curved into the sweetest little crescents, flashing the most radiant, breathtaking smile I had ever witnessed in my entire existence, radiating like pure sunlight, as if she were literally glowing from within. Then she dropped a totally unexpected line. "Being alive right now is actually super nice." Freezing up for a split second, I gently rubbed her head, deciding not to press her on what she meant. I just went along with it, telling her, yeah, staying alive is easily the greatest thing ever. So let's keep holding on to life together, deal. Pressing her lips together into a firm line. She paused for a second before nodding aggressively. I kept my nose to the grindstone all morning long. And by midday, the snow cow leather coat was finally complete, along with a matching set of leather pants, featuring a few clumsy patches here and there, due to my total lack of tailoring experience. But who even cares, because I finally had legitimate clothes that were warm, thick, and actually fit to protect my body from the elements. Slips on the gear, and suddenly I'm feeling like a brand new guy, rocking shredded shorts and a torn tee in the early spring freeze. Yeah, never doing that again. Low-key suffering. Out near the colony perimeter, Clover was busy scavenging. Thank goodness I double-checked the system map display, just wandering around aimlessly and collecting random, useful junk. That is peak Clover behavior right there. Next item on the agenda was crafting actual production tools. While pushing toward that geothermal generator, wait, hold on a second. Glancing up at the glaring sun, it was high noon. My eyes went wide with pure panic as I realized I totally forgot to feed Lucia. She had been laid out in that dim shack since the previous night, with zero breakfast and not a drop of water, just stranded in there, completely immobilized, staring hollowly at the ceiling while starving to death. I bolted straight toward the shack and skidded to a chaotic halt right outside the wooden frame. Gave a knock, but absolute silence answered back. Knock a second time, and still nothing. Pushing the door, opened slowly. Two piercing ice blue eyes locked onto me from the deep shadows, giving off major horror movie ghost vibes. I was seriously beginning to think, she stated, her voice chillingly flat and deadpan, that you had a master plan to starve me to death in here. She was totally throwing a tantrum, which explained the radio silence on my knocks, giving me the cold shoulder and the silent treatment. All morning I had been stuck sewing clothes and completely lost track of time. Rubbing the back of my head awkwardly, I muttered, "You could have just hailed me through the terminal, you know, right? Do I honestly look like the type of person who begs for food?" She dropped that line like it was some kind of badge of honor, acting as if being way too proud to ask for help, while slowly wasting away from hunger was a major flex of character strength. Grabbing a handful of berries, I dropped down and sat right beside her. Okay. My bad. I'm genuinely sorry. Open up. She was definitely not done being salty yet. Someone made a pinky promise yesterday that they would protect me, no matter what, and today they totally left me hanging to starve. MMPH. I shoved a berry right in her mouth mid-sentence. With impeccable timing, she chewed it down with clear irritation written all over her face, then shut her eyes, opened her mouth again, and waited for the next round, multitasking by being mad and eating at the same time. Honestly, seeing her throw this attitude, and me like this weirdly put me in a good mood. It meant she was finally comfortable enough around my presence to show real emotions instead of cold detachment. Just a few days back, she treated our whole dynamic as a strictly business transaction. Now, she was literally pouting at me over a late breakfast. Once that absurdly delayed breakfast finally wrapped up and the residual anger melted away, she asked about my upcoming game plan, build out production tools, and try to get that geothermal generator online as fast as humanly possible. Having steady electricity would completely flip the script, allowing for weapon forging and way better sewing equipment. The whole 9 yards, but my inventory was still lacking. I didn't have anywhere near enough components or raw materials for a generator yet. The ultimate bottleneck remained the exact same as always. Manpower. I was just one lone guy, carrying the workload of a whole crew. For now, the priority is knocking out basic tools, gathering raw materials from scratch, and checking in with Clover to see if she managed to score anything good out there. Components can actually be stripped down by me. Baby steps are totally what this entire colony runs on. Just tiny baby steps and berry jam, Lucia. Putting electricity first was deemed the right call by her. Yet she couldn't ignore the elephant in the room either. You're severely understaffed, aren't you? I sighed, overwhelmed by too much to do and too few hands. It's honestly killing me. No colony gets built overnight. Yours is actually doing better than most out here, she offered encouragingly, before adding, RimWorld has plenty of random refugees and wanderers. Should you manage to guarantee food, most would happily join your ranks. Solid advice. Except 0 refugees or wanderers had actually been spotted by me yet. This was probably because folks roaming solo across RimWorld tend to become dinner before becoming actual colonists. Before stepping out, my eyes swept across Lucia's cramped shack. Want me to relocate you somewhere bigger? Our cabin has tons of space. Just picture myself stuck lying paralyzed in that tiny box all day. May my claustrophobia flare up badly. But she immediately turned it down. This place is fine. It's quiet, private, and great for meditation. Besides, as your colony expands, visitors from other settlements are bound to show up, and I prefer they didn't know I existed. Visitors? Not every colony on RimWorld is hostile, you know. Some send out trading caravans. If you happen to cross paths with one, try forging a relationship. It'll seriously help you down the road. Trading caravans? Even inside this lawless wasteland, commerce somehow finds a way. Still, any group tough enough to run a caravan in this brutal world must be insanely powerful. An entire afternoon was spent by me building a manual forge, with the ultimate goal of crafting a mining pickaxe for future or collection. A manual forge means old-school blacksmithing. And old-school blacksmithing with my twig-like body meant 0 heavy hammer swinging. Melting the iron inside the furnace and pouring it into a mold was required instead. Even that nearly took me out. Simply keeping the furnace hot enough to liquefy iron proved to be backbreaking work by sunset, right as Clover returned carrying an armful of berries. A single iron pickaxe had finally been produced by me. Staring at it briefly, I collapsed flat onto the ground, drenched in sweat and desperately gasping for air. Soul literally leaving my body, I thought, I seriously need that electric forge. If every single basic tool costs me this much suffering, I'll be dead before the colony even hits 10 items. Rushing over with berries, Clover checked on me. Good work. Inhaling the berries, I sat straight up. Clover, do you happen to have anything I can scrap for components? Components? Hold on. Pausing to think for a second, she walked around behind Lucia's shack. Moments later, she reappeared carrying something nearly half her size. My eyes locked onto it, and even a guy straight out of the 21st century could instantly recognize it. That thing was an outdoor air conditioner unit. Dropping it heavily on the dirt, she headed back out for more, dragging a broken prosthetic limb, unidentifiable machine parts. And wait, was that a tiny robot? Clover, hold on. My eyes were glued to that steadily growing pile of junk. Where did you get all this? Found them while gathering food. I thought they might be useful someday, so I brought them all back. And where were you hiding all of this? She tilted her head like the answer was the most obvious thing in the world. Buried in the dirt, of course. Buried in the dirt, I opened the system map. The ground behind the shack, previously smooth and flat, was now riddled with holes. I looked down at Clover's hands. Every single crack and crevice was jammed with dark soil. She's a mouse. She's literally a mouse. She hoards junk and buries in the ground. Even her scavenging instincts are mouse instincts. I patted her head. Thank you, Clover. Seriously, she shook her head. As long as it helps. It helped way more than she could possibly know. I started sorting through her treasure pile, decomposing the useless stuff, and salvaging everything else. I picked up the little robot, heavier than it looked needed. Both hands, shaped like an oversized disc with a tray on top, like a giant Roomba. 2 mechanical arms extended from sides. Could Lucia fix this worth asking? After decomposing everything I didn't need, the component shortage for the geothermal generator was solved all thanks to Clover and her beautiful trash hoard. The only thing I still needed was iron. The system map showed an iron ore deposit to the east, and conveniently a geothermal vent nearby. Perfect spot for the generator. But the sky was already getting dark. Mining would have to wait until tomorrow. However, there was one more thing I wanted to try. I grabbed a robot, marched excitedly to the shack, and pushed open the door. Lucia, check this out. She glanced at it for exactly 1 second. That's a transport bot. It's broken beyond repair. Scrap it 1 second. She didn't even let me finish holding it up. My excitement evaporated like water on a hot stove. Intelligence level 20. Everybody identifies and dismisses your hopes. In under a second flat, my excitement died instantly. No chance of fixing it. The mechanical core is completely dead. It's just an empty shell. You'd spend less time building a new one from scratch. Lucia didn't even blink besides you. Don't even have electricity yet. Stop dreaming about robots. Fair enough, I wasn't really expecting much anyway. I just got excited. Seeing an actual piece of futuristic technology for the first time. Like a kid spotting a giant toy in a store window. But the trip wasn't wasted. Lucia had something to tell me. From the sounds outside. You've gathered enough materials for the geothermal. All the generator parts are fully accounted for. Iron is all I'm missing, so I'll go mine some with Clover tomorrow. I stretched out my aching limbs, feeling genuinely relaxed for the first time in ages. With that massive bottleneck cleared, the vibes were finally immaculate. Then Lucia's tone turned deadpan and cold. Get that electrical grid finished ASAP, and make weapons your top priority right after. Never had I heard her sound this serious. What's going on? I asked as I intercepted an emergency broadcast. A whole tribe of flame demons is tearing through the region. 2 colonies have already been totally flattened by them. That fleeting sense of peace vanished instantly. Their active zone is operating just south of your settlement. What kind of weird creatures are flame demons, anyway? My face tightened up as I shot back the question. They are technologically primitive, yet viciously aggressive. Their signature trick is the ability to literally breathe fire. Because of course they can. Pyromaniac raiders are marching right toward us. Talk about a total brum moment. Both of the wiped-out colonies were tiny and poorly defended outposts. Just like ours, Lucia added smoothly. Wait, really, I asked. Those places were still way more built up than yours. In terms of sheer size and population, I sheepishly scratched my head. Fair enough, we aren't even qualified to be called a small, poorly defended settlement. We rank way below that, but then Lucia spoke up. Her tense look breaking into a cunning, mischievous grin. If you can manage to scale up quickly enough, fighting them off is a genuine possibility. She followed up with a sly smirk. Or you could just ditch this place completely and pack up for somewhere much safer. That second suggestion went straight over my head. You said I have a fighting chance, so what's their tech level like basic firearms? Their absolute best gear consists of primitive guns. Primitive guns that I currently have zero capability to deal with either. Fine, whatever, keep going. That's just how RimWorld works anyway. Massive risks and golden opportunities always roll together. She smiled brightly. If those flame demons keep pillaging the area, scrambling refugees are going to head right toward your door. There's your golden ticket for recruitment. And provided your industrial output keeps pace, I can hook you up with weapon blueprints, strong enough to absolutely steamroll the flame demons. High-tier military schematics handed down by a level 20. Genius Sky Angel, now that totally caught my attention. Forming an alliance with a powerhouse faction and borrowing their heavy muscle is another option. She added offhandedly. Befriending a major faction was way out of my league right now. Those weapon blueprints, though, were living rent-free in my mind. As night fell, the local climate decided to remind me that RimWorld despises any form of comfort with crystal-clear skies all day, only to unleash a midnight downpour. A heavy, unrelenting sheets of rain battering every surface outside. I lay flat on my wooden slab of a bed, blankly staring upward at the all-wood ceiling. The exact same all-wood ceiling that was now springing leaks. Drip right onto my face, drip straight onto my forehead. Drip right inside my eye after a grueling day of exhausting labor. This was straight-up psychological torture. The roof desperately needs fixing. I muttered under my breath while Clover curled up even tighter than usual. Yet she remained dead to the world, resting easy. My leather jacket was carefully laid across her shoulders. Then, stepping out into the downpour, I grabbed a spare scrap of raw cowhide, facing the storm. Shoving open the door to Lucia's shack, my worst fears were confirmed instantly. Things were looking 10 times worse for her. Water was cascading straight down from the roof, right through the gaping frame, where I'd popped the glass out earlier today. Her garments were drenched clear through to the skin. She was stretched out amidst the shadows. Eyelids shut tight, chest rising and falling in a steady rhythm, acting like she wasn't getting completely battered by freezing rain. Deep in the dead of night, inside a falling-apart shack, my gaze might have accidentally wandered south for a split second. Damp, white stockings glued tight against pale legs under the moonlight glow. Snapping my eyes away, my bad. My bad, let's keep it moving. Draping the heavy cowhide over a frame like a makeshift comforter was my next move. Soft, thick thermal cow fur, honestly solid enough to pass for high-end bedding. Patching up that broken window frame with leather is priority number one tomorrow. With the wind howling and rain lashing down, this whole setup was low-key unfair to her. Turning around, I got ready to head out. A pair of glowing ice blue optics suddenly flickered to life in the pitch black. Freezing in my tracks, I blurted out, "Did I wake you?" "Nah. Crash way too long during daylight hours. Can't drop off now." Her tone came back frosty as ever. "You're stressing over nothing. We Marilla folks don't even register extreme heat or freezing cold. Even if you left me out here exposed to this torrential storm, it wouldn't faze me at all. Talk about a wild evolutionary build. Still, having rain constantly beating down on your physique has got to be super annoying, right? Totally the reverse, actually, after being locked up in total silence all day long. The raw sound and vibe of nature hits different in a good way. Staring blankly at a wooden ceiling for days straight, with zero outside sensory input whatsoever. Men even getting rained on felt kind of refreshing by contrast. Want me to take this hide back then? Followed by a brief beat of silence. Nah, keep it here. That was a low-key, thoughtful move. I'll take it off your hands, Lucia. The undisputed queen of claiming she never needs assistance. Yet taking it anyway, a grin spread across my face, bidding her a quick night. I trekked back through the pouring rain toward my own drafty cabin, dropping right down beside Clover. Sensing my body heat instantly, she curled up and snuggled right against me. Tomorrow's agenda: mine some iron ore, construct a power generator, and kick off the local electrical revolution, all while bloodthirsty, fire-breathing demons close and fast from the south side. Talk about no pressure. Wishing her a final good night, I shut the bedroom door. Hours later, long after I had drifted off to sleep, word came down that she whispered a quiet good night right back, though I was already out cold by that point. Waking up at dawn, the rain had completely cleared out, but the ambient temperature had taken a brutal nosedive. Reaching over to grab my leather jacket, I discovered Clover had locked it in an unbreakable death grip, clutching the thing like it was her favorite childhood plushie, with her tiny muzzle buried deep in the textured fur, giving it a firm pull. She let out a sleepy frown and hugged tighter still. "Hey, that jacket is mine. I lent it to you as a sleeping blanket, not your official body pillow." Yet victory in this little showdown was impossible. Letting out a heavy sigh, I playfully flicked one of her mouse ears and walked out of the cabin without a jacket. Once I finished cleaning up, my feet naturally led me toward the fields to check on the corn. According to the system, the first harvest takes 3 days, and today marked the start of day 2, right as the crop patch came into view. Freezing in my tracks, I stared at stalks that now towered right over my head. They were thick, vibrant green, super healthy, and completely decked out in plump ears of corn. Just 2 short days, and on some sketchy alien planet where supposedly nothing grows. Rubbing my eyes in disbelief, I took a second look. They were still totally real and totally pest-free. Turns out RimWorld apparently skipped out on crop-eating bugs. Well, that is one less thing to stress about. Rocking a huge grin, I sauntered back toward the camp, low-key planning to treat myself to a nice pan-fried steak to celebrate, until my eyes landed on the outdoor stove, soaking wet. The firewood was drenched, everything was completely soaked to the bone. That relentless rain from all night long had totally wrecked my open-air cooking setup. No fire means no hot food, so it is back to munching raw berries. Awesome, I thought, chewing my depressing breakfast, before heading over to Lucia's shack for her morning feeding routine. The exact moment I pushed the door open, our gazes locked, and she instantly darted her eyes away. Did I somehow mess up? I asked. What would make you jump to that conclusion? Because you are acting like. Even looking at me causes you physical pain. What? No. It is nothing, I just... She completely fumbled her words. Before throwing the towel, fine. I just really do not want to look at you. Something weird was definitely bouncing around inside her head, though it looked like SHE herself did not even have a clue what was going on. Letting out a dramatic sigh, I muttered, "This is a first in my life." breaking my back working this hard for someone, only to get treated like a total eyesore. Enough is enough. Taking a seat right next to her with a smirk, I reached over to brush her bangs aside and pressed my palm flat against her forehead. You are acting super weird. Did you seriously catch a bug out here last night? Her skin felt cool to the touch, zero fever detected. Plus, her complexion was ridiculously smooth, basically like fine porcelain, meaning if I poked her cheek, it would probably bounce right back. Super tempting, but I gotta practice self-control. Are you done touching me yet? Lucia stared me down with a totally deadpan expression, pulling my hand back quickly. Huh? No fever is definitely good news. Like I told you, Marilla don't catch colds from the weather, right? Right? The noble Marilla are completely immune to all earthly sickness. So please, allow this humble servant to serve breakfast. To our bedridden Marilla princess. Open wide, I said, holding up a berry with my most annoying grin. Her cheeks instantly puffed up like a chipmunk's, resembling a little kid throwing a silent temper tantrum. I froze up completely. That had to be the cutest thing I had ever witnessed in my life. Right across that Ice Queen facade, a genuine pout from the proud and chilly. Level 20 intelligent sky spirit. Are you going to feed me or what? She snapped abruptly, remaining completely clueless about what her face had just given away. Oh yeah, time to check out the food situation right now. While completely stunned, I handed her those berries. My mind needed a quick SEC to bounce back from that total knockout blow. Standing right outside the cabin door was Clover, clutching my leather coat with a blushing red face. She had just woken up, only to realize she spent the whole night hugging my jacket, as if it were a stuffed teddy bear. Awkwardness was literally pouring off of her. Without saying a single word, I grabbed my coat back, slipped it on, and flashed a grin. Let's roll, Clover. Mining day is here, and she nodded vigorously. Obviously super glad I didn't bring it up. Let's move as we started heading east. The landscape shifted as the grass began to thin out, and before long, we found ourselves facing a towering stone wall. The system map revealed it was actually just one massive boulder, most likely an ancient meteorite that crashed here long ago, and slowly got swallowed up by nature over time. And packed inside was iron. Tons of it as I rolled my shoulders back, tightened my grip on the pickaxe, and smashed it into the rock face with everything I had. Mining time has officially started, and with 3 colonists, where one can't walk and another can't cook, and the last one swings an axe while looking ready to cry. Still, we've got corn growing and components stockpiled, plus iron waiting to be mined out. Fire-breathing demons are lurking to the south. A creepy cult is hunting for our angel, and a leaky wooden roof covers our heads. Time to craft a generator. After just half an hour of mining, I was totally done for, completely fried and exhausted. Letting go of the pickaxe, I collapsed straight onto the dirt, gasping for air like a broken accordion. Back on Earth, I grinded construction jobs for 2.5 years, working hard on job sites every single day. Back when I was strong and had crazy stamina. Now all my arms feel like toothpicks. My lungs are paper bags, and lifting a pebble leaves me winded. Spending 3,000 years locked inside a freezer pod apparently turns your whole body into an absolute joke. Clover watched me, face down in the dirt for a moment of quiet respect, before silently reaching down to pick up the tool. She walked right up to the vein, raised a heavy pick, and clang. A solid chunk of iron popped right off. She quickly adjusted her footing. Clang, clang, clang. Clang, clang. The pickaxe turned into a total blur, right in her hands as metal chunks rained down around her feet, looking like she was speedrunning a mining simulator game. The echoing noise sounded just like a blacksmith shop, set on fast forward while I sat there with my jaw on the floor. Okay, her mining skill might only be level 5, but level 5 is totally enough here since she mined like a beast. Glancing over at my own level 10 construction skill, somehow it didn't feel nearly as impressive anymore when watched from this perspective. Anyway, Clover taking care of the mining meant I could finally focus on the generator. Grabbing a piece of raw ore, I decided to try something out. With a blinding white flash, I dismantled the raw ore, and right in my palm, it turned into pure, refined iron, alongside a pile of stone dust, and it seriously worked. Skipping the entire smelting process was totally doable now, allowing me to break down raw minerals straight into usable iron. Talk about a massive productivity boost. Pulling up the map, I searched for the geothermal vent, and spotted it nearby, basically just a gaping hole in the dirt, only slightly larger than a standard manhole. Stepping closer to check it out of nowhere, The thing blasted a column of scalding steam right at my face, almost cooking me alive. Note to self: never stand directly over the planet's angry breathing hole. Dropping down at a safe distance, I immediately got to work, assembling generator parts piece by piece, using the system's decompose and reshape functions. With the blueprint burned into my brain and iron in my grip, I had absolute zero prior experience building power plants. This project was leagues harder than crafting a wooden cabin, requiring every single component to fit together with laser precision. Whenever two pieces failed to lock, I had no choice but to scrap one and start over, wasting valuable iron every single time. An entire morning burned away, just crafting the basic frame and internal components. By the time I stopped, my brain felt like a bowl of overheated soup. Throwing down my latest failed attempt, I collapsed on the spot. If only the system had a dump materials here and press a button feature, life would be so much easier. But as usual, the interface stayed completely silent because it lacked that option. Naturally, that would make things way too convenient, and this system clearly hates convenience. Checking the time, I realized it was already noon. Seriously, where did the whole morning even go? Rushing back to check on Clover, I found her sitting right next to her mining wall, her forehead dotted with tiny beads of sweat. A mountain of mined iron sat right beside her, while the rock face behind her now featured a person-sized hollowed-out cavity. All of that was done in half a morning with just a simple pickaxe, and by a girl who barely reached my chest. "Clover, you are seriously incredible," I blurted out. "Thank you," she replied with a modest smile, shaking her head while still catching her breath. Seeing her looking so exhausted made my heart ache a bit. "Hold on, let me grab some wood and set up a barbecue for lunch." "Barbecue," she gasped, shooting straight up to her feet, as all her fatigue vanished in an instant. "Yes, actual meat." Quickly gathering some timber, I built a roaring campfire, pulled some beef and berries out of the system storage, and started grilling. Clover immediately planted herself right beside me, tracking every single flip of the meat with laser focus, and waiting to be fed like a hungry baby bird. Honestly, that was totally fine by me after she swung a pickaxe for hours. She more than deserved to sit back and wait. Meanwhile, something I wouldn't discover until much later, roughly a kilometer south of our location, a strange situation was unfolding in the deep woods. A group of 4 colonists could be seen staggering through the trees, all of them small in stature, sporting round, fluffy ears and thin tails just like Clover. Every single one of these mouse people was heavily injured, and among them, a golden-haired girl was completely unconscious. Bị thương nặng đầm đìa máu và đang được cõng trên lưng một người khác, cơ thể đang dần lành đi từng phút. Họ là những người sống sót từ một đoàn thương nhân, xuất thân từ một nơi mang tên Cusco, vốn thuộc về vương quốc Arabic nào đó. Đoàn người đang trên đường hướng về phía nam để buôn bán, thì bất ngờ bị lũ quỷ lửa tấn công tơi bời. Hàng hóa bị cướp sạch, còn thành viên thì tử thương la liệt. 4 người sống sót giờ sắp chỉ còn lại 3. Họ đang di chuyển ngược về phía bắc chỗ chúng tôi. Những nguy hiểm và cơ hội mà Lucia từng cảnh báo tôi, nay đã thực sự xuất hiện rồi. Tôi vừa đưa xin thịt cho Clover ăn, thì bản đồ hệ thống bỗng nhấp nháy tín hiệu liên lạc mới. Clover chờ chút đã nào. Có mấy kẻ định cư đang tiến đến từ hướng nam kìa em. Vẻ mặt háo an vui vẻ của cô bé bỗng biến mất, nhanh như thể có ai vừa gạt nút nguồn. Tay lăm súng lục và ánh mắt sắc lẹm đảo quanh. Hướng nào ở phía nam và có mấy người vậy anh? Họ là người chùa Tế Á, người chùa Tư. Cô bé nghiêng đầu thắc mắc trong lúc tôi chạm vào một dấu chấm trên bản đồ. Bahinia, chủng tộc Anmon, chùa Tuyết. Kỹ năng bắn súng cấp 5, kỹ năng chiến đấu cấp 3. Tôi bấm sang một cái tên khác, Bovivivan, chủng tộc Minion. Chùa Tuyết bắn súng đạt cấp 6, và chiến đấu lên tới cấp 10 dòng chùa Tuyết à. Đó là một nhánh giống loài của em phải không? Tôi vừa hỏi vừa nhìn cơ gật đầu xác nhận. Bọn chùa Tuyết chủ yếu sinh sống ở các vùng cực lạnh. Chúng có hẳn một vương quốc riêng biệt ở phía bắc, được gọi là vương quốc Adavid. Thế nên, Clover thực ra nắm khá rõ về chính trị của loài chuột. Theo quan sát trên bản đồ, 4 vị khách đang tiến thẳng về phía chỗ chúng tôi. Có lẽ họ đã trông thấy làn khói lửa chạy của nhóm. Một người trong số đó hình như đang bị thương nặng, và được đồng đội cõng trên lưng. Lời dặn dò của Lucia lại văng vẳng trong tâm trí tôi. Quỷ lửa đang tàn phá càn quét ở phía nam. Tị nạn chạy trốn về phương bắc chính là cơ hội để tôi chiêu mộ Clover. Bình thường người chuột đối xử với người là ra sao vậy em? Nói chung là thân thiện lắm. Lũ chuột không tấn công các khu định cư khác trừ khi bị khiêu khích. Số lượng bọn em trải khắp vành đai vi môn này quá nhiều rồi, nên chẳng việc gì phải tranh giành lãnh thổ cả, thật tuyệt. Quá tuyệt vời luôn, anh sẽ ra tiếp cận họ xem sao. Tôi vừa dứt lời thì cô bé đáp vâng gọn lọn. Không một chút do dự, súng lục đã sẵn sàng trên tay. Để em bảo vệ anh cho. Khi tôi còn chưa kịp giải thích chiến lược tiếp cận của mình, tôi đã thấy trên bản đồ nhóm người kia đã dừng chân lại. Một thành viên tên là Anmon đã tách đoàn và một mình dạo bước tiến về phía này. Tôi mỉm cười nhủ thầm xem ra họ chủ động tìm đến mình kìa. Một bóng người với mái tóc màu lanh dài bồng bềnh hiện ra từ xa xa. Clover lập tức giơ cao khẩu súng lục của mình lên. Kẻ vừa đến phát hiện ra thứ vũ khí trên tay Clover, liền vội vã giơ cả hai tay lên trời. Đó là ký hiệu toàn cầu mang ý nghĩa xin đừng bắn tôi. Tôi ra hiệu cho Clover hạ khẩu súng xuống, rồi bước tới trước để gặp gỡ người lạ mặt. Clover vẫn bám sát chặt ở phía sau lưng tôi, vẻ mặt đầy cảnh giác dù cùng chung một chủng tộc đi nữa. Cô bé cũng tuyệt đối không chịu lơ là phòng thủ. Chúng tôi gặp nhau ở đoạn giữa và tôi bắt đầu quan sát Anmon. Cô ấy cao tầm cỡ Clover, với mái tóc xù mềm mại trông rất đáng yêu thích ghê. Her tone was completely shot, and exhaustion was written all over her face. It honestly looked like she hadn't caught any ZS in days. A wave of sheer relief washed over Almond the second she spotted me. She then pivoted her gaze toward Clover and instantly deadpanned. For a brief moment there, some vibe coming off Clover totally threw her for a loop. Still, she shook it off in a heartbeat. Hello, she greeted us. I'm Amon Zhongling. What brings you guys out here? Dropping all her armor immediately, she admitted, we seriously need backup. Smart move on her part, since she could totally tell I was running the show. We're just a trade caravan rolling in from the Edelweiss Kingdom. Heading down south, we got ambushed by flame demons out of nowhere. One of our crew members is in critical condition right now, and she could kick the bucket at any second. Her palms pressed together tight, as she locked her huge, desperate dark eyes right onto mine. Flame demons? Right on cue, exactly like Lucia called it. And honestly, right then and there, I felt this random surge of appreciation for those fire-breathing freaks. They literally dropped potential colonists right onto my front doorstep, free of charge. So you need us to patch up your wounded? I asked. Yeah. She nodded frantically. We just need to crash at your settlement for a couple of days. Once she pulls through, we're out of your hair for good. We can't pay you up front right now, but we'll do whatever chores you need in return. Please just give us a few days. And then they bounce? That was kind of a bummer. I was low-key hoping they'd want to hang around, though maybe if I played my cards right, I could convince a few of them to stay put. Also, do anything? My thoughts immediately flashed to my half-built geothermal generator sitting right next to the steam vent, with 0 extra hands to help put it together. The timing on this was honestly god tier. After mulling it over for precisely 3 seconds, I told her, hand over your weapons first, and then you can drag your injured over. Trust, but verify. Colony security always comes way before charity. Clover definitely would have backed that mindset, and she was standing right behind me, nodding in total agreement. A bunch of mouse refugees, 1 critical casualty of fresh labor force, plus a solid connection to a northern kingdom. Day 3 was serving up a wild mix of danger and opportunity. Lucia nailed it. Her prediction was spot on. Without pushing back on my terms at all, Oman walked back to her group and rounded up the rest of the crew. She dropped their whole arsenal right onto the dirt in front of me. 2 crossbows, 3 compact daggers, and a handful of bolts. No guns. That's literally everything. Do you need to frisk us too? They were genuinely desperate. 0 food, 0 backup plans, and a teammate on the brink of death. Surrendering their gear to a total stranger was their safest bet, and they knew it. With a quick gesture, I whisked everything into my system inventory. Amon's eyes flicked wide open the second she watched those weapons vanish into thin air. Yeah, my storage tech always manages to pull off that exact reaction. No pat-down needed. Bring your injured person over here. Stepping forward out of the crowd, another mouse with short flaxen hair, sharp eyebrows, and a fierce expression, carefully lowered the blood-soaked, carrying the golden-haired mouse girl on my back. Please, she muttered under her breath. Those syllables felt like a heavy blow to her massive ego. I paused a second to check out this fierce-looking rodent warrior. To be completely real, I honestly took her for a dude at first. She totally sported the sharpest and most androgynous face in the entire squad. Yet that vocal pitch was 100% female. Now that I think about it, I've never laid eyes on a male mouse person before. What on earth do they even look like? Are they even a thing? This turned out to be Mignonette. She shared Amon's family name, the Balhinius sisters. Caught in the act, she threw a nasty glare my way, suddenly remembering she needed a favor. Her tough exterior completely collapsed mid-sentence. What are you staring at, just taking it all in? So you and Amon are actually sisters. I'm Mignonette, the seventh-born child. Amon holds the oldest spot, being 2 years senior to me. Number 7 across a gap of 2 years and 7 total kids. These mouse people really live up to their species stereotype, huh? A tiny stomach growl, echoing loudly cut off our awkward vibe. A deep blush instantly rushed across Mignonette's cheeks. Our journey only yielded a few measly forage berries, leaving everybody utterly starved. Reaching into my system storage, I grabbed some berries and tossed them her way, declaring, "This is all I've got right now. But it should help, thanks so much." Blushing bright red, she accepted them and immediately started munching down. Keeping her gaze planted downward, I gently ruffled her short locks. They weren't as silky as Clover's, carrying a slightly fuzzier texture. Probably some weird snow mouse trait. Yet it felt oddly comforting while she didn't even acknowledge the gesture. Too consumed by hunger, then a gentle tug pulled at my coat, right near the hem. Glancing downward, I spotted the tiniest mouse individual I had ever witnessed, desperately gripping my fabric, even when compared against already miniature mouse folk standards. This little kid stood a whole head shorter. Dark hair, tangled messy with scattered leaves and small twigs. Her face smudged with dirt while huge dark eyes gazed upward at me. A tiny mouse child. If normal mouse people were already built pocket-sized, she was practically the pocket edition of a pocket edition. Locking her gaze upward, she stared quietly for quite a while, mustering up her courage before whispering in a tiny voice, "I'm hungry too." She had spent this entire duration hiding safely behind the others, starving silently without a single complaint, trying desperately not to become dead weight. Only after watching me feed Mignonette and stroke her head did she conclude I was friendly enough to approach. Without hesitation, I dropped berries into her tiny hands. She breathed a quiet thank you and immediately started scarfing them down. "What's your moniker, kiddo?" "Raspberry," she mumbled between mouthfuls, while I was busy breaking the ice with the mice. Clover was carefully checking out the unconscious patient Walnut. After wrapping up the worst of those bleeding injuries, she stepped forward to deliver her diagnosis. "It's a severe infection. Transporting her back to the main base for real medical care is urgent." Followed by strict "bed rest, we need to move right now," I urged because every single second counted. Resigning myself to the task, I loaded Walnut onto my back. She felt practically weightless against my shoulders. Mouse people are insanely light. Our entire assembly broke into a steady jog heading for the colony. Upon our arrival, the entire mouse caravan swept their eyes across the area and fell completely silent. Just a single wooden cabin alongside one lonely toilet shack, and a vast cornfield completed the entire landscape. Their shared expressions instantly telegraphed the exact same thought. This place is a colony with barely 2 residents, carrying 0 defenses, plus one building that actually looked decent, right next to another one looking totally condemned. To their credit, though, not a single one of them displayed any hostility. These mouse folk literally never bite the hand that feeds them, period. Apparently, it's just hard-coded into their species traits. We laid Walnut down carefully upon our only bed, while Clover immediately went to work utilizing various herbs and medicine, leaving the rest of us to wait outside anxiously. An hour later, Clover finally emerged from the room. Her wounds had been tended to. Almond clasped her tiny hands together tightly while bowing low. "Please save Walnut. I am thanking you so much. Candidly speaking, I can't guarantee anything at all," Clover stated with total honesty. Her overall constitution is honestly not great. Whether she manages to pull through ultimately depends on her own inner strength. She is super tough, Almond insisted with absolute, unwavering confidence. "She's going to make it, so everything's going to be fine." Clover glanced directly at me now that the medical job was done. Handling the heavy diplomacy was clearly my department. Stepping forward briskly, I laid it out, per our agreement. "During your stay here, you guys are going to work for us." Omen nodded solemnly. "Until Walnut fully recovers. We aren't going anywhere, so what do you need us to do?" "We need plenty of things, but first of all," I pointed my finger toward the cabin standing right behind me. "As you can plainly see, we only possess a single house. If you intend to stay, you'll need to construct one of your own." Mignonette cast a sideways glance at the old shack and muttered under her breath, We could probably just squeeze into that one instead. And I panicked. Oh no. No, absolutely not. That's Lucia's shack, a forbidden shack containing a massive secret, featuring a paralyzed angel that absolutely nobody is allowed to know about. Trust me when I say absolutely not, guys. I blurted out quickly, you definitely don't want to go in there. Stepping on my tone, I shut that idea down immediately by declaring that shack's strictly off limits. Don't ever go near it and never even peek inside. Don't even think about doing it. The three tiny mice nodded so rapidly that their furry ears completely blurred together. Vivid panic was visibly written all across their eyes. They were undoubtedly cooking up some truly horrifying mental image. Locked away inside there, my bad little mice. It's not actually some bloodthirsty monster, just a paralyzed angel princess, whom absolutely nobody can ever find out about. Even so, keeping them terrified works totally in my favor. So I'll gladly keep this creepy mystery alive. Oman broke the silence, saying building a house is no problem at all, provided it only needs to be marginally livable. We can easily throw one together in a single day. Just one day with these extra hands available. And they could magically erect a whole house in 24 hours flat. Do you have any remote idea how long it took me to build mine solo? Hauling heavy logs with my pathetic twig arms while nearly collapsing from sheer exhaustion. Every single half hour? If you guys happen to need building materials, come straight to me, since I can supply raw stone blocks or sturdy lumber. The three mice promptly sat down in a neat little row, their fuzzy ears perked up high, absorbing every single instruction of mine like a bunch of obedient students. Honestly, it was low-key adorable. Once the new house is officially finished, I'll definitely have other tasks lined up for you. But first, I paused deliberately for dramatic effect, before summoning a massive, thick chunk of beef straight out of my system space. Tell me, is everybody hungry right now? We're feasting on prime beef tonight, folks. Every single one of those mouse folk lit up like crazy. Thick streams of drool were practically pooling right off their lips. Nothing but wild berries for days was all they had to live on. Ever since that brutal flame demon raid. Wiping her mouth carefully, Ahmed tried to keep her manners. Honestly, we're totally cool with whatever. You really didn't have to go all out like this for us. Little did I realize at that exact moment. Manual labor goes for dirt cheap out here on the Rim World, while actual food is the ultimate luxury. Most drifters would grind themselves down to the bone for a whole 24 hours straight, just to score a single bowl of basic nutrient paste. From Ahmed's perspective, I had taken them in off the streets, patched up their wounds, and was now serving them meat. Physical work was the only currency they could bring to the table. She felt this arrangement was ridiculously heavily skewed in their favor. None of that dynamics had crossed my mind back then, and even if I knew, I wouldn't have given a damn. Nobody can hustle on an empty stomach. Come on over, help me get this campfire roaring. The whole vibe completely flipped around. High spirits, crackling flames, and sizzling meat. Once she had a couple of bites of beef in her system, Almond completely lost her chill, clutching Mignonette with one arm and grabbing Clover with the other. She started belting out songs right by the campfire, in broad daylight. Her vocal cords had this uniquely cool, smoky texture to them. Pretty charming even, though her actual pitch was god-awful. Clover's expression was pure, unadulterated endurance. Not exactly ticked off, but definitely not having a good time. I kicked back by the warmth, flipping the meat, watching the hilarious mess with a grin on my face. This was peak liveliness for our little settlement so far. That's when I spotted little Raspberry sitting off by herself, giving the meat a total pass, just silently pecking at the decorative garnish berries. Shunning the meat entirely, she jumped at the sound of my voice, then visibly unwound upon realizing it was just me. Protein is a massive deal for our tiny colony. Truth is, we've actually got way more than we can possibly finish. Leaving it untouched means it's just going to go to waste. I extended a meat skewer right toward her mouth. Hey, growing kids got to eat up properly. Hesitating for a second, she took the tiniest nibble possible. She chewed in slow motion, and then her tiny frame broke into a sudden shiver. What's wrong? It tastes good, right? Her voice cracked heavily. Snatching the stick from my grip, she buried her face right into it, devouring it like her entire existence depended on it, which up until today, it kind of really did. I gently ruffled her tangled dark hair. Mignonette sauntered over at that moment, having successfully ditched her sister's musical torture session. Raspberry is genuinely fond of you. She strikes me as a solid kid. Almost too good, and that's the real issue. Mignonette's tone dropped to a softer register. She hasn't shed a single tear since that attack. Never once whined about having an empty stomach. Always taking the absolute smallest share, so nobody else runs short. She's trying her absolute hardest not to be a burden on anyone. She proceeded to spill more details about mouse culture. Unlike humans, mice usually drop 3 to 4 babies at a single go, bro. That massive population explosion straight up triggers severe food shortages everywhere. Little mouse kids get thrown into the workforce super early. A bunch of them, even younger than Raspberry, get shipped off to other colonies as cheap laborers, just to keep themselves from starving, which got my brain spinning like crazy. If most mouse settlements honestly can't even feed their own folks. Well, I've got genuine corn growing right here on RimWorld, along with a cheat code system letting me stockpile grub. That never ever spoils. All I gotta do is pull up to a mouse camp and pitch a work for me deal. I'd feed 'em, and they'd be lining up at my door in seconds. Except that kind of insane food. Flex would also paint a massive target right on my back. Any raider with half a functional brain cell would come hunting for my crops. Power comes first, recruitment comes second. That was the golden rule I set. Right after finishing up lunch, the mice jumped straight into hustle mode, with zero laziness holding them back. They tracked down solid stones and instantly started building, and even tiny Raspberry pitched in with surprisingly speedy little hands. Almond dragged a hefty block of marble all the way to their chosen building zone, dropped it with a thud, and wiped her sweaty brow. Stepping over there, I laid my palm flat against the marble surface. Decompose mode triggered a blinding white flash, and that rough, jagged marble block instantly morphed into a neat stack of perfectly carved stone bricks. Almond's jaw hit the floor, and she stared in shock for a solid 5 seconds, before losing her mind with pure hype. What the heck was that? That is seriously insane. Oh, just a tiny little perk of our tech. I replied as casually as possible. Tiny perk? You literally skipped the entire stone-cutting phase. Your home planet's construction game must be out of this world. Her furry ears were twitching intensely with unfiltered excitement. Meanwhile, internally I was thinking, yeah, Almond. My home planet was actually pretty cracked at construction. Trust me, I know, since I got laid off from it. As for my home world's building tech, well, it's been over 3,000 years by now, so I haven't got the foggiest what Earth looks like today. But judging by old memories, it was pretty epic. Almond was clearly connecting the dots inside her head. Storage tech, decomposition, instant processing, all pointing to high-tier infrastructure. She was probably assuming my home world was some kind of utopian engineering paradise. To be fair, she wasn't totally wrong. We did have solid infrastructure. I was just permanently unemployed from it. By the way, Almond piped up casually, while I was still chunking up stones. Is Clover your wife? I froze dead, mid-decompose. Why on earth would you jump to that conclusion? Well, there's literally only one cabin with a single double bed inside, and it's just the two of you living together under one roof. She actually had a fair point there, from an outsider's lens. This setup definitely looked like a newlywed's homestead. One cozy cabin, one big bed. Built for two? I really should have built separate sleeping arrangements. We're just partners, I clarified carefully. Strictly survival partners. Since she basically saved my life the day I landed here. Without her, I'd be total toast. Oman gave a quick nod in agreement, before dropping a comment that completely threw me off guard. Still, Clover seems very close to you. That honestly blows my mind, like why? I vibe just fine with Raspberry and Minionette too. And we literally just met. Almond shook her head. Clover hits different, way more special than ordinary mice. Someone with her vibe doesn't just let people get close. That's precisely why your bond with her totally caught me off guard. She could totally tell. There were still secrets Clover hadn't spilled to me yet. So she decided to drop the subject. Special, huh? Even without Almond pointing it out. I'd already felt it. Why was Clover flying solo? Why did she spend an entire brutal winter by herself, with an intelligence stat sitting at a mere level 4? Yet combat skills that were low-key insane. Where on earth did all that come from? I wasn't about to interrogate her when she wasn't ready. She would spill the beans eventually, thanks to my decomposed skill doing heavy lifting with stone cutting. The mice erected their shelter at a lightning-fast pace. By dusk, a legitimate marble house was standing tall, right there inside our camp. I gazed at its sleek, polished walls and felt major FOMO. This place looked way cleaner than my wooden cabin. They pulled off building a superior house in a single day. Compared to the 2 days it took me, we made it extra sturdy. So you can keep using it long after we're gone. Almond noted with a thoughtful expression. Talk about thoughtful. Do you want us to renovate your wooden cabin as well? She offered. This girl was practically tripping over herself to prove her worth. She didn't want to come across as a freeloader. For even a fraction of a second, save it for tomorrow. I've got some heavy-duty tasks lined up for you. For now, grab some well-deserved shut-eye tonight. Yes, ma'am, she gave a crisp nod, acting like a soldier executing direct orders. After they finally got Walnut settled into their brand-new home, which finally freed up my bed, phew, thank goodness. The chaotic day was finally winding down. Once I made sure everyone was tucked in safely, I grabbed some rations and marched toward the Forbidden Shack. To handle Lucia's evening feeding routine, I shoved the heavy wooden door open, and icy blue eyes locked onto mine right away in the dim light. Though this time she didn't look away at all. You had some guests drop by today. A traveling mouse caravan that got ambushed by flame demons. They're looking to crash here until their wounded buddy gets back on his feet. And then split you say? She shot me a knowing look. Are you really fine with them just walking away like that? Heck no, obviously not. I would try to convince them to stick around all day, but their head honcho is dead set on heading back to base. Lucia remained totally unfazed by the news. Flex your unique perks. Some of them are bound to want to stay. What unique perks? I'm just a basic 21st century, nobody dropped into a 56th century wasteland. There's nothing special about me at all. You know what? Just forget I said anything. Just be your authentic self around them, and keep my existence under wraps. Already handled, they wouldn't dare step foot near your shack now. Open up wide, grub's here. I finished feeding her and headed back to get some shut-eye. Meanwhile, far down in the southern territories, events were secretly unfolding, long before those details ever reached me. Amidst the scorched ruins of a settlement, a shadowy figure wandered forward, which the flame demons had completely leveled. Charred structures marked their third tragic target, while pooled blood and a heavy stench of death lingered. Enveloped in a lengthy black robe, and shielded by an overlapping dark cloak was the traveler. Their face remained entirely hidden beneath a broad-brimmed hat, while a strapped sword rested neatly at their hip. Vibrant pink hair peeked out from the brim. Had I laid eyes on that outfit myself, I would have instantly assumed a fellow Chinese transmigrator had crossed my path, and immediately tried trading weird secret handshakes. Yet beneath the heavy fabric of the cloak, Atik, slipeitail feturin translucent fins, gave away that this wandering stranger was definitely not from Earth. It was some bizarre fish person rocking ancient Chinese aesthetics. Rimworld is honestly getting way too wild. Those flattened ruins have belonged to the Chihuahua clan, a peaceful demographic of cat-eared folks who loved building safe communities, despite possessing lagging technology. Ever since Cosmic Wars dumped endless outsiders onto Rimworld, the Chihuahuas became absolute sitting ducks. In fact, 2 out of the 3 total settlements raised by the flame demons happened to be Chihuahua homes. As that mysterious wanderer thoroughly inspected the ashes, a harsh voice suddenly echoed from behind the rubble. A frantic survivor watched as several flame demons stepped out, sporting fiery orange-red skin and jagged horns, while gripping heavy spears and machetes. They had clearly stayed back just to loot the place. The lone swordswoman dressed in black faced them down single-handedly under the pale moonlight. My gut told me right then. Things were about to get a whole lot crazier. Day 12 of the green face year, 5,500. I rolled out of bed before anyone else stirred, while the entire compound stayed fast asleep. Clover and the mice were knocked out cold, after days of running for their lives from sheer danger. Our caravan crew finally scored a safe bed to crash in. Let them get their beauty sleep. Quietly slipping past Clover, I snuck out of the cabin and took a massive gulp of the crisp morning air. Time to check the corn crop. According to the system, batch 1 should be ripe today. Striding over to the fields proved the system right. Peeking out from between the protective green leaves were gorgeous golden glows. I ripped an ear right off the stalk, peeled back the husk, and there it stood revealed. A ridiculously fat and flawless golden ear of corn. Every single kernel looked plump and bursting with juice. The overall quality was honestly insane. This wasn't just basic crop yields. This was the absolute blueprint of perfect corn. Plus, it is infinitely replantable on a hostile planet where nothing naturally grows, and whole colonies starve to death every single winter. Should word of this miracle leak out, every single raider within 100 kilometers would pull up. This corn wasn't just regular food anymore. It functioned as a cheat code for mass recruitment, and a massive target painted on my back. Snapping off a few ears, I headed back inside to cook breakfast. Time to steam some corn and see how amazing it tastes. Clover was just stirring awake from her slumber. Stepping outside into the fresh morning air, she caught sight of the corn on the dirt, freezing stiff with perked ears. "Is that corn?" she gasped. "The corn is finally ready?" I gave a nod. "Just harvested a batch, and I'm about to cook it up." Without waiting a second, she lunged straight for a cob, snatching it right up to sink her teeth into it. "Raw. Clover, you seriously can't eat that raw." Too late. Her eyes went totally supernova, clutching the cob like it was her absolute pride and joy, and started annihilating it at warp speed, just gnawing through the uncooked kernel like some tiny, buzzing chainsaw. I forcefully wrestled the half-eaten cob out of her greedy paws, her cheeks stuffed out to max capacity like a little hamster, while staring up at me with deeply betrayed eyes. "You cannot eat raw corn. It's got to be cooked properly." She forced down the massive mouthful and fixed her gaze right back on the corn in my hand with intense desperation. "But it's so bussin' raw. Way better than beef. Hold up, better than beef." Was she actually losing her mind? I popped a raw kernel into my own mouth. Bruh, it straight up tasted like raw corn. Bland and super crunchy. Nothing special at all. Clover literally has the palate of a feral rodent, which checks out completely since she actually is a rodent. Even so, we aren't munching on raw corn crops. Well, I've got a perfectly functional steamer to set up. She was literally vibrating with a strong urge to steal another ear. So I scooped her up with a single hand and deposited her right to the side. "Seat. Stay. Hum." She planted herself down obediently, with her tail whipping back and forth at mock speeds. Such a good girl, a very patient girl, and a hangry little girl. I whipped up a quick-fire steamer, using our handy decompose function, and had the corn cooking within mere minutes. The most mouth-watering aroma began drifting outward, across the entire colony grounds. Clover's tail instantly went into maximum overdrive. Suddenly, the heavy stone house door creaked open, and Almond emerged, sleepily rubbing her eyes, her voice carrying that signature raspy morning tone. "What on earth is cooking this early? It smells low-key amazing." "Steamed corn. It's almost ready." I could literally see the gears turning in her head. She had eaten synthetic nutrient corn rations before, the standard Rimworld survival version. That tastes like solid limestone wrapped up in old rubber. Zero juice content, zero actual flavor. Only good for keeping your stomach from rumbling. So why in the world did my fresh corn smell this good? She padded over to sit right next to me, staring down at the hot steamer with mounting curiosity. "So, how is Walnut holding up?" I questioned. Her furry ears dropped slightly downward. "Much better now, actually." "Thanks a lot. No need to thank me for it. This is a fair trade. Your labor in exchange for our protection." That was the deal. She whipped her head around to look at me, giving me the classic half-smile I apparently always wear, which somehow makes a completely lopsided agreement sound totally reasonable and normal. "You are honestly such a weird human," she muttered deep in thought. One by one, all the other colony mice came trickling out, lured entirely by the scent, until an entire community of mice was huddled tightly around a steamer. While waiting for the corn, we had definitely come a long way from a crude toilet shack, and a measly handful of berries to start the morning. "Good morning, big bro." Mignonette greeted me with high energy. Yesterday's prickly attitude was totally gone. Suddenly, I was the main boss, proving that one day of food and shelter was all it took to get a massive promotion. Little Raspberry peeked out from behind with shy eyes, whispering, "Good morning, big brother." Just a single day was enough to completely win over these mice. Feed them beef and give their heads a pat. Behold, the ultimate Jiangling recruitment method, which was embarrassingly simple. The corn was finally ready. Lifting the steamer lid released a thick, fragrant aroma that hit us like a brick wall. Every single mouse in the vicinity began swallowing hard, their drool syncing up perfectly as I doled out 2 ears to each. "If you're still starving, go fill up on berries," I told them. Clover snatched her 2 ears and sprinted into a dark corner, like an overprepared squirrel hoarding winter nuts. She was already frantically gnawing away before anyone else, while Almond grabbed hers and gently blew on it to cool it down. "Too hot," she muttered, staring down at the plump golden kernels with a look of utter bewilderment. This looked nothing like the artificial corn she had ever known. Taking a cautious bite, she completely froze in place. Mignonette bit into hers at that exact moment, experiencing the exact same reaction, a total system shutdown. Sweet, rich juices burst across their palates, delivering actual flavor and genuine texture. Everything that artificial corn could never dream of being. Little Raspberry didn't have any frame of reference for comparison, so she simply assumed it was delicious, and happily kept right on nibbling away. Fresh vegetables were entirely new to her. She was far too low-ranking in the colony to ever get any. As I ate my own portion of corn, I felt genuinely emotional. It was my first taste of vegetables since arriving in this messed-up world. And God, I missed real food so much. If only I had a rice system. Hey, system, do you happen to have any rice seeds hidden away? Hello. Just dead silence on the rice front. Of course, the corn was fantastic. Though honestly, I'd still pick beef any day of the week. Even completely unseasoned. I glanced around the area. Clover had already polished off both of her ears and was sprawled out flat in the soft grass, belly up and looking completely content. Raspberry was still quietly nibbling, while Almond and Mignonette stared blankly down at their corn, paralyzed after just a single bite. They weren't eating. Did they actually hate it? Almond suddenly snapped back to reality. Wait, this is actual corn? I just smiled. What else would it possibly be? Her brain was visibly short-circuiting right in front of me. She knew for a fact this wasn't synthetic nutrient paste. Yet natural vegetables simply cannot grow on a harsh rim world. That wasn't just a wild guess. It was an established law of the universe. Only the mega-rich could ever afford real, natural crops, imported across the stars on rare interstellar cargo ships from distant core planets. She clearly had 1,000 questions, swirling around behind her wide, bewildered eyes. Yet she swallowed every single one of them down and quietly resumed eating. Smart girl. She instinctively understood that. Asking too many nosy questions might end up causing me trouble. Just eat your food and stop overthinking it, kid. Right after breakfast. I told the mice to rest while I walked some corn over to Lucia. She glanced down at the cob with an expression of pure, unadulterated disgust. Get this away from me and bring me berries instead. I'm not touching that garbage. I never said it was artificial. With my absolute smuggest grin plastered across my face, I shoved it right up to her lips. Catching that rich, unmistakable aroma, she mumbled, "Try it." That unmistakable scent was definitely not fake artificial corn. Giving me a super suspicious glare, she eyed me down. Then, taking the smallest nibble imaginable, she tested it. Her eyes squeezed tightly shut while she slowly chewed. Shedding its cold exterior, her signature Ice Queen mask finally shattered the second her eyelids fluttered open. Those striking blue eyes radiated pure, unfiltered shock. Dropping her guard, she blurted out, "Natural corn? Where on earth did you get this?" "Grew it myself," I casually replied, though she immediately shot back with impossible. Without a single moment of hesitation, she noted that rim-world soil simply cannot support any crop growth. Had it been capable, every corner of the universe would have colonized this very planet long ago. Honestly, she was completely right on the money. That total inability to cultivate natural food supplies served as one of the core reasons why Rimworld remained a lawless, chaotic wasteland. Without any agriculture whatsoever, establishing a stable civilization was practically a pipe dream. Maybe my seeds are just built different. I shrugged vaguely, totally dodging any deeper explanation about the system. Hard as she stared at me, she surprisingly chose not to press the issue further. "Can you replant them, and what's the harvest cycle like?" She pressed. "Replantable, with a swift 12-day growth cycle for these natural veggies. A completely renewable 12-day harvest schedule. Nestled right on a dead planet where absolutely nothing grows." Even the usually unflappable Lucia, that collected and composed level 20 genius, began to slip. I could visibly spot her pulse starting to race. Lowering her tone into a dead serious pitch, she called out, "Jiangling." Straightening my posture instantly, I braced myself. Just what are you planning to do with these seeds? Anyone could tell her heart was hammering away, having initially written off my tiny, modest colony as an absolute speck of dust. In the vast, grand scheme of Rimworld, she realized a sustainable natural food source. Completely flipped the script. Stockpile food supplies, rally fresh colonists, and aggressively scale up production. I casually noted, "Do you even grasp what having renewable natural crops actually signifies on this planet?" The look in her eyes grew blindingly intense. Backed by sufficient military might, you could practically conquer and unify the entire surface. She whispered, eyeing the horizon. Unifying the entire surface of Rimworld itself sounded huge. Judging by her expression, she low-key wanted me to give it a shot. That very same self-proclaimed angel who had called our colony pathetically poor, barely 3 days ago, was now staring straight at me, as if I were destined to become the future overlord of this whole world. "I know," I responded with total calm. "Though world domination isn't my primary focus right now. Right at this second, figuring out how to stay alive takes absolute priority. One step at a time. Secure the corn first. Worry about world domination later. Survival comes before big dreams. Sure, unifying a whole planet sounds legendary on paper, but a single magical corn cob isn't enough to build an empire overnight. Falling completely silent after my reality check, Lucia gracefully continued nibbling on the corn stick I held up to her. Even while being hand-fed like a tiny baby bird, she managed to make it look effortlessly regal. Having finished feeding our resident angel, I gathered the mouse crew together and led them eastward toward the thermal venting area. Amon caught on to the plan instantly, guessing aloud, "We're setting up a geothermal generator right here?" Exactly. It's a massive undertaking, and doing it solo is out of the question. So I need your backup. Transferring the schematic straight to Amon's terminal, I shared the blueprint. It wasn't exactly top-secret military tech, and I definitely needed these mice operating at maximum velocity. No worries at all. With total self-assurance, she gave her own chest a confident tap. Right away, everyone dove into the grind, while I just stood frozen in place, observing, searching around for a task to pick up, only to find zip, since all the raw components were pre-processed, and the blueprint was already in the mice's hands. Those 3 tiny mouse workers were moving swiftly, acting just like a full-scale engineering squad, outpacing and outperforming me completely. My presence wasn't even needed there. A weird mix of pride and utter uselessness washed over me. Minionette jogged right past my spot. "Big bro John, we've got this. Why don't you go take care of Walnut?" She made a valid point since somebody had to keep an eye on the patient, and Clover had already been pulling that shift all morning. Making my way back toward the colony, I spotted Clover pacing anxiously outside the stone dwelling, stressing out over me heading off by myself with the new mice. The exact moment she laid eyes on me, her expression melted. "You're back. Over there, they totally got it handled. I'm going to step in for walnut duty now. Plus those corn stalks need harvesting and replanting ASAP. I'll take care of the corn." Her offer came so fast, I barely finished my sentence. Her glowing golden eyes looked practically desperate. Talk about 2-star farming passion, right? Planting things is just her absolute favorite. Giving her head a gentle rub, "Go get him, Em." She sprinted off toward the fields at full speed, looking like she had just been sprung from a cage. What flew completely over my head back then was that Clover wasn't just stoked about some corn. She was dealing with a low-key identity crisis over those new mice, handling heavy-duty construction and mining work, while her only real contributions were farming and taking people out, making up her entire skill set. Proving her usefulness to me meant everything, and corn happened to be one of her only tickets to do that. Stepping inside the stone shelter, I found Walnut resting on the makeshift bedboard in the corner, sporting short golden locks, a petite frame covered in layers of bandages. She looked like a smashed porcelain doll. Pulling up a seat, I immediately checked her stats. Bellflower Walnut Race. Snow Mouse, shooting level 17, fighting level 217. Boasting a double-star talent rating 1 tier above Clover's. This unconscious, tiny bloodstained mouse girl right here was packing way more sniper firepower than my personal bodyguard. Yet her level 2 fighting skill sat way lower than mine, making her the most extreme specialist I had encountered yet. She was pure ranged devastation, with absolutely zero close combat capabilities whatsoever. Right then, Walnut stirred as her eyes flicked open in a daze, totally glazed over and still caught half in a nightmare. Suddenly, her whole body started thrashing around, arms flailing upward as she tried to crawl off the bed, muttering in a panicked whisper, "Flame demons run." Major PTSD hitting hard. That brutal ambush was still replaying inside her mind. Pressing one palm firmly on her shoulder to hold her down, I used my other hand to stroke her forehead soothingly. Gentle strokes running from her hair all the way down to her ears. "It's okay, no flame demons here. You're safe." Whether she caught my actual words or just soaked up the body heat, her frantic thrashing slowly died down. Her gaze drifted toward my shadowy outline, lingered for a brief second, and then fluttered shut again, drifting back into dreamland, though her nervous system reacting was definitely a W. She wasn't fully online yet, but she was low-key putting up a fight. Once more, I brushed back her golden locks with my hand, made sure she was tucked in tight, and walked out the door. Since my to-do list was suddenly empty, those little crossbows I confiscated from the mice popped into my head. I summoned one of the miniature bow guns out of system storage, looking absurdly tiny like a plaything for toddlers. The firing mechanism was so micro my fingers could barely grip it, yet the tiny bolt resting on top was wicked sharp. totally lethal, to scale down to rodent proportions. The second crossbow had a bit more heft to it, built for human hands with some seriously crude craftsmanship. But it fit my grip nicely as I rigged up a makeshift shooting dummy. A humanoid scarecrow fashioned from spare timber and hay stood ready. So I backed off, notched a bolt with clumsy fingers, took aim, and let fly thwip. It struck dead center in the chest, making the entire target sway violently. Strolling over, I yanked the metal dart free, finding the ammunition completely intact and ready for round 2. It was peak efficiency for grinding practice without burning rare supplies. Crossbows aren't firearms, but for a guy stuck at level 3 shooting, who literally cannot afford to waste real bullets, this setup was an absolute game changer. That pretty much summed up how I passed the remainder of daylight hours, slapping targets in the backyard while the afternoon sun beat down. In between firing drills, I threw together some tables and chairs, hauling the rustic furniture inside our cabin. Peak settlement boss behavior right here. Babysitting an out-of-it sniper, playing Robin Hood, and interior decorating. Day 12. Backup generator currently under construction. Cornfields successfully harvested and replanted. Mouse labor force running smoothly. Angel fed, and nobody tried to eat my face today. I'm calling that a massive W. Crafting interior furnishings had been on my radar forever. Grubbing meals off the bare dirt alongside clover felt straight up wrong, on a fundamental, soul-crushing level. So I finally carved out some downtime to build proper seating for the living quarters before checking the HUD map. Down in the trenches, those little rodent workers were slapping that generator together at insane speeds, the metal skeleton already forming. At this ridiculous velocity, it will be fully built by tomorrow. Retrieving a stray bolt from my practice backstop, I moved to reload when a sudden system alert flashed. Warning: Wolven merchant caravan passing through the territory. Instantly opening my map interface, I spotted 4 figures trekking south along the northern border, each accompanied by beast mounts loaded down with heavy packs. Their tiny tactical icons even sported distinct wolf ears, and fluffy tails pointed downward toward the dirt, proving beyond a doubt these were actual beastkin, not mutts. Tapping on the leader's profile icon, I pulled up the stats. Sonya Mona. Wolven faction, shooting skill level 9. Combat level 11. Dropping the crossbow in my inventory, I sprinted off to check on Clover. While booking across the base, I pinged Lucia through the secure terminal. Wolven trading caravan spotted nearby. Heading out to establish contact right now. Her reply blinked back instantly. Go get him. Wolf and syndicates are basically military-industrial powerhouses, meaning their traders usually pack serious heat. Grab some gear if they've got good loot. Hearing weapons for sale literally made my heart skip a beat. Quickly tallying my stash, I found around 500 silver total. With any luck, it'd be enough to score a piece. Pulling Clover away from the cornfield, we marched straight toward the incoming caravan. Having already spotted our shack of a settlement, they halted to check it out. What a total dump. I could practically hear the judgment echoing from them. Right on cue, their alpha leader Sonya flashed a grin and started sauntering right at us. Now, let me paint a picture of Sonya for you. Towering tall, she stood almost level with my height. Her dark green hair matched her twitching wolf ears, complemented by a meticulously brushed wolf tail. An eye patch covered her right eye, somehow boosting her vibe into overdrive. And let's not ignore her fiercely stacked proportions. An oversized jacket did zero favors hiding her upper half, while tiny cut-off shorts exposed one bare leg, alongside one sleek black stocking. She was absolute apex predator energy wrapped up in a wolf girl aesthetic, throwing her arms open wide as she closed the distance. She called out, "Hey there, new to RimWorld?" Locking down my best poker face, I replied, "Just got here, and I heard wolf. And military gear are top tier around these parts. Drop by to see if you got what I'm looking for." Her silver eye twinkled brightly. Before I could blink, she lunged and trapped me in a suffocating bear hug. "Well, damn, you came to the right person. Handsome." Out of the corner of my eye, I caught Clover's tail going dead stiff. She was literally half a second away from pulling her revolver and handling this dispute with pure violence. Just behind Sonya, her crew muttered amongst themselves, "There she goes again. First time I've ever seen her hug a dude, though usually she only goes for chicks. Guess he's just ridiculously clean looking. Right? Never seen a human colonist this pretty. He could low-key pass for a girl, honestly. Too bad he's got no tail." I stood frozen in place with a painfully forced smile, painfully aware of 2 absurdly soft objects, crushed firmly against my chest. Once she finally released her grip, I managed to choke out, "You're super friendly." Friendliness sells weapons, kid. I'm Sonia. Sonia Monajanink. What a gorgeous name, I muttered before she slapped my shoulder so brutally. I felt the shockwave rattle my bones. So what are we buying? Melee or ranged? Yeah, she definitely blanked on my name immediately. Ranged. Long range, if possible. Long range means a sniper rifle, darling. The brown-haired wolf girl addressed as darling scrambled over to the pack horse instantly and fished out a heavy sniper rifle. Sonia caught it with one hand and flashed it toward me. Standard issue sniper rifle, boys. Armor penetration rated at a solid 38%. Ring value is only 530 silver. Includes a matching scope, maintenance kit, and 2 full magazines. While I had zero clue what ring value actually meant, a bigger percentage definitely spelled way more stopping power. Cradling the weapon in my grip felt unreal. Featuring a sleek, silver-toned barrel, my inner kid was screaming in joy. Except for one minor catch. It cost 530 silver, and I was sitting at a pathetic 530 short. Keeping my expression totally blank, I pretended to thoroughly inspect the firearm. Acting like I totally had a clue what was going on, I blurted out if they had any assault rifles on deck. A smooth coming right up, darling echoed back instantly. Lightning-fast movements had darling swapping out gear like a pro pit crew. Right into my hands went a standard assault rifle courtesy of Sonia. 16% armor penetration stamped on a standard assault rifle. 480 silver with the exact same bonus package attached. While 480 technically fit my budget, it was about to drain my entire bank account dry. Fast mental math equations started running through my head as I stared down the barrel, desperately trying to mask how totally stressed out I actually was. Dropping all my cash on a single piece of hardware. Classic RimWorld economy vibes right there. Sonia totally read me like an open book, spotting my inner conflict over the steep price tag, despite my obvious desire for the gun. Spotting my inner conflict over the steep price tag, despite my obvious desire for the gun. Payment in the form of raw meat is totally fine by us too. A wide grin spread across her face in case your settlement has any lying around. Since wolfen are naturally carnivores, we'll gladly take it off your hands. Meat basically forms the foundation of their primary diet structure. Supplies are routinely bought in massive bulk quantities from external settlements. Every single season, meat doubles as hard currency out here. My system inventory was currently packed with a massive stash of leftover snow cow. High-quality beef guaranteed, never to spoil on me. Sitting on top of this stash felt like guarding a high-end steak vault. Would you accept premium beef provided it stays fresh enough? 12 silver per pound is our firm, non-negotiable rate, though 10 pounds is the absolute maximum we can carry. Our southbound journey means hauling perishable meat is a total nightmare. 10 pounds translates neatly to 120 silver. Combining that with my current 500 stash would easily fund either weapon choice. Shifting my gaze toward Clover, I asked which option she preferred. Should we go with the sniper rifle or stick to the assault rifle? Putting this weapon in her hands was a given since giving me one. Would look like handing sports car keys directly to a toddler. A quiet, questioning glance was tossed right back at me by Clover. Your call, she murmured. Nah, you pick instead, came her quick follow-up. Then let's lock in the sniper rifle for maximum stealth efficiency. One clean shot for one definite kill. That was pure, unfiltered Clover logic right there, prompting an approving clap from Sonia. Your cute little mouse wife has absolute top-tier taste. We'll have the package prepped in no time flat, wife. Clover froze up instantly, her entire posture going stiff as a board. A brilliant shade of ripe tomato red swept across her face. Every single centimeter from her ears downward turned a deep crimson, faking a double cough to clear the awkward air. I pulled a substantial cut of beef straight out from system storage. Go ahead and weigh this up, I offered. Bypassing any scales completely, Sonia just hefted the meat with one hand. Bypassing any scales completely, Sonia just hefted the meat with one hand. Super fresh stuff, coming in just over 10 pounds. Let's round that to 130 silver, leaving a remaining balance of 400. Avoiding any unnecessary drama on our very first trade partnership, I handed over the 400 flat to seal the deal right then and there. Damn, you move fast, she noted. Let's exchange terminal codes before you go. Hit me up first next time I pass through this sector, and we'll talk shop again. Before their caravan packed up and rolled out, a casual warning about the flame demons lurking to the south dropped from my lips. Just a friendly heads up, I added, while Sonia's eyes narrowed with utter contempt. Those low-tech cavemen playing at being flame demons couldn't touch us even if they tried. Running straight into our heavily armed caravan will be nothing short of pure bad luck for them. An approving chorus of nods and identical swagger rippled through her crew behind her. Fair enough, I figured. Challenging a level 11 fighter kit out with high-grade military hardware wasn't on my to-do list. Challenging a level 11 fighter kit out with high-grade military hardware wasn't on my to-do list. Plus, if she actually went ahead and wiped out those flame demons, it would low-key end up working out nicely in my favor anyway. I just knew deep down things wouldn't go that smoothly. The moment those wolves took off, Clover completely ignored her brand-new sniper rifle and sprinted straight toward the cornfield. For her, food always beats firepower every single time. She kept grinding until afternoon, before tracking me down at the target range. All the corn has been harvested and stacked up. Awesome job, but did you get the seeds replanted? With a puzzled look, she tilted her head. There are no seeds left, though. Oh, right, I get it now. She had no idea this was natural corn. Her mind assumed it was artificial. You know, those one-use seeds every colonist on RimWorld relies on. That's just how farming works to them, simply because it's all they have ever known. Had she actually been eating this corn, while thinking it was artificial this whole time? She definitely knew what artificial crops were, though. She had just never laid eyes or taste buds on a real one before, leaving her with nothing to compare it against. I guided her over to the field. She had already cleaned the place up spotlessly, and even stacked the stalks in neat piles. So I showed her the exact process. First step, pluck the kernels right off the corn. Second step, dig a little hole in the earth. Third step, drop the kernel into that hole. Fourth step, cover it with dirt and boom, you're done. Seriously, that's it. No fancy fertilizer. No complex irrigation or special treatment needed. You just plant it in the dirt and watch it grow. Even I was low-key stunned by how ridiculously simple it was. Farming definitely did not work like this back home. Clover watched closely as I plucked a kernel from a harvested ear and pushed it back into the soil. Her eyes went completely wide. I could literally watch her entire worldview on agriculture crashing down in real time. You mean you can harvest more from the exact same corn forever? Got it. The rest of the field is yours. She nodded up and down repeatedly and dove back to work with a fresh wave of energy while she was busy planting. I checked her stats and noticed her farming skill had leveled up, jumping straight from level 3 to level 4. And lucky for her, I still had that farming skill trainer that the system had rewarded me with. She genuinely loved farming. She was great at it, and to be honest, outside of farming and combat, she felt like she didn't have much else to bring to the table. This was totally her element. Once she finally finished, she came dashing over, her face streaked with dark earth, from accidentally smearing it across her skin while wiping away sweat. With big golden eyes shining and her tail wagging excitedly, she stood there waiting for praise. All done. That is amazing work. Go wash your face up because I got a little surprise for you. She hurried back looking sparkly clean, and I held out the skill trainer, holding up the white brick. Any clue what this is? Giving another head tilt. Nope. It's a skill trainer. It's going to majorly boost your farming ability. Come take a seat right here next to me. Without asking a single question, she sat right down, and I carefully placed the device against the back of her head. Don't move an inch, no matter what happens, okay? Right on cue, the trainer clicked, shifted its shape, and firmly clamped onto her skull. Farming skills leveled up big time thanks to a fresh sniper rifle. Day 12 of the renewable corn empire turned out to be super productive. Clover completely shrugged off the stinging pain without even flinching. She didn't twitch once, showing total trust. A flood of agronomy knowledge hit her mind just moments later. I kept my eyes glued to her stats on the panel. Her planting skill skyrocketed straight from level 4 to level 6. That vast cornfield was officially her playground now. She blinked in utter disbelief a few times. That gadget is low-key insane, though it's strictly one-time use. It just turns into scrap metal afterward. I went ahead and decomposed the trainer, then safely pocketed all the silver and components. Having just blown 400 silver on a sniper rifle today, I was painfully reminded that every coin counts. Building a bigger stash was definitely a must. The mouse crew finally rolled back from the construction site as dusk settled. Everyone was invited by me to grab dinner inside our cozy cabin. Almond pushed the heavy wooden door open, and her eyes went wide at the sight of the fresh furniture. Is that a legit dining table? As she sprinted straight toward it, she began examining every single inch of it, like it was some priceless museum artifact. complete with a wooden table and fancy reclining chairs. We wouldn't have to eat sitting in the dirt anymore. Mignonette and Raspberry stared right at those chairs, with pure, unfiltered longing. Nobody on this harsh planet actually enjoys eating on the floor. And honestly, even basic furniture was a major luxury that most colonies could never afford. Our dinner menu featured grilled beef alongside roasted corn. Meat and veggies were on the table, while my little outpost looked like a dump. Yet the food was easily top tier compared to anywhere else on RimWorld. Almond leaned back comfortably into her chair, with a full belly and her eyes drifting half shut. If my meals looked like this every single day, I would totally want to stay in your colony forever. Then feel free to stay, I replied without a second thought. Extra hands are always needed here, so you guys are all welcome. Her gaze flickered as she clearly felt tempted. Mignonette and Raspberry looked the exact same way. I could read it all over their faces before Almond suddenly sat upright. I still have to head back, though, since the flame demons wiped out several members of my caravan. As their leader, I owe all of those grieving families some answers. Mignonette scratched her head awkwardly. I'm rolling with Almond. I'm really sorry. Little Raspberry whispered softly to me. I honestly want to stay and help Big Brother out, but my mama is back home waiting for me. You can't win them all just yet, but that's fine. If you guys ever happen to change your minds, I added, our front door will always be wide open. Raspberry's eyes lit up brightly upon hearing those words, hinting at a tiny spark of deep longing. Almond's expression quickly shifted to a serious tone. Jiangling, are you seriously planning to stay here alone? Those flame demons are actively marching north right now. If they end up reaching your place, she trailed off mid-sentence. There was no need to finish because we both knew what she meant. My current setup couldn't survive a raid, but I'm staying put for now. I answered simply, and she didn't push the issue any further. Instead, she offered help. If you ever find yourself in hot water, just reach out through the comms terminal. I'll do whatever I possibly can. Mignonette chimed in eagerly. If those flame demons dare show up here, send one quick message and I'll sprint over here personally. A warm smile crossed my face as I listened. Even if their own faction barely cared enough about them to dispatch an actual rescue party, as their caravan was slowly perishing in the brutal wasteland, we laid out tomorrow's blueprint. The generator would be completed. Then power lines had to be run all the way back to camp. Omen's crew was going to take care of all that heavy lifting, while Clover mined more iron for the wiring. And as for me, I'd stay stationed at base to babysit Walnut and Lucia. Just peak colony manager vibes. Delegate all the chores and spoon-feed the paralyzed angel, keeping watch over our unconscious sniper. I served Lucia her dinner before finally hitting the sack, passing out cold and welcoming day 13. The morning sun cast an eerie green glow after breakfast, as everyone scattered to tackle their daily grinds. The settlement fell silent with just yours truly left. I gave Walnut some refreshing water, grabbed corn for Lucia, and headed over to the shack. The generator wraps up today. Even Lucia sounded low-key impressed by that, meaning you'll finally have juice before summer hits. Summer on RimWorld apparently slays people for real, so cooling systems are a massive must-have. I bought the air conditioning blueprints ready, she mentioned before dropping the real bombshell. You wanted firepower, and suddenly my ears totally perked up. You promised I could take the fight to those flame demons. So go ahead and show me what you got, just chill. Give me a sec, she replied as her eyes drifted shut. Seconds later my mind was completely flooded with fresh data, while the system chimed in right on cue. Mechanical processing blueprint successfully acquired. Firearms manufacturing blueprint successfully acquired. Early unlock for firearms technology has been detected. Bonus shooting skill trainer unlocked, along with one bonus melee fighting skill trainer. Firearms manufacturing meant I could actually craft guns now. Lucia fluttered her eyelids open first. Build that mechanical processing workbench next. And once our production stabilizes, I'll drop the next batch of blueprints on you. I was still frozen in place with my brain buzzing wildly, trying hard to process everything. She had just info dumped into my skull. Mechanical processing, gun crafting, and 2 sweet bonus skill trainers. The angel had literally handed me an entire arms industry. Day 13 was barely an hour old, and I was already scheming to level up into a full-blown weapons lord. This colony's growth pipeline was pivoting fast from 2 random goofballs in a shack straight into a military-industrial complex, moving at a velocity that honestly felt borderline illegal. That mechanical processing workbench required actual electricity to function, and once powered it could churn out firearms and ammo. Raw materials for bullets were super common across RimWorld, making them ridiculously easy to scavenge. It could even manufacture rounds for the sniper rifle. The production assembly was mostly semi-automated, so turning out bullets was a breeze. Building actual guns was trickier, but still within my wheelhouse. Nothing too futuristic, though, just trusty bolt-action rifles. Pump shotguns and revolvers similar to Clover sidearm. Basic entry-level gear, but rumor had it. The Flame Demons were operating on this exact tier of technology, so matching their loadout was the primary objective. That heavy sniper rifle I recently copped from Sonia was clearly leagues ahead of all this basic equipment, though it was a massive flex knowing we had at least one elite piece. Taking everything in, I offered Lucia a smile, saying, "Seriously, thanks a ton. You pull me through my sickness. Blueprints are handed over because this is strictly business," she stated with zero warmth, though her gaze deliberately drifted everywhere except toward me. My eyes happened to lock onto her wings without me realizing it. They appeared droopy and far less fluffy than usual, resembling blossoms withering away without any sunlight. Having been trapped inside this dreary shack for days, totally devoid of natural light, her feathers naturally looked super depressing. "Why'd you go quiet?" she questioned. "Oh, just thinking. Get some rest." I slipped out past the closed door. A faint sigh was definitely let out by her. Yet I was already long gone. Back at base, Walnut was checked on by me, still completely knocked out, though the weird shift was happening today. Severe nightmares were plaguing her. Nasty ones at that. As she thrashed wildly across the mattress and mumbled through tightly clenched teeth, scattered fragments like flamed demons and run could be caught by my ears. That vicious attack was being relived in her head. Mental imagery of dashing through pitch-black forests, while horned red-skinned monsters hunted her down, watching her companions catch fire and burn alive right before her eyes, right down to the exact second she hurled herself in front of Spear, targeted at Almond, sitting down right beside her. One hand was gently pressed against her shoulder, while my other palm tenderly stroked her forehead. "It's cool. No flame demons are hanging out here. You're totally safe." She instantly calmed down, her tense frame finally relaxing as her breathing grew steady. Whatever terrible nightmare had trapped her, my voice somehow managed to break through, guiding her back into deep, peaceful sleep. Leaving her to snooze, I headed straight back to crossbow practice. Shot after shot echoed outside, each attempt getting slightly less terrible than the last. Suddenly, a hushed voice whispered right behind me, "Your right hand is way too stiff. You honestly don't need to lift it that high." I practically jumped out of my skin, whirling around to find Walnut, golden hair messy, bandages wrapped everywhere, standing right in the doorway of the stone house, and watching me with steady amber eyes. "You're awake." She stared at me for a lengthy moment, and a curious flicker crossed her features. Not precisely recognition, but rather a comforting familiarity, as if my voice was known from somewhere before, even though she couldn't pinpoint where. "Where's Almond?" she asked, showing zero hostility, no weariness, and not even a single shred of suspicion, directed toward a total stranger. She just looked dead into my eyes and decided, with absolute certainty, that I posed no threat whatsoever. It was super clear she couldn't muster up even a tiny ounce of defense against me. Instinctive trust was all she had. That had to be because I was the one talking to her. All through those nightmares, since my voice acted as her anchor. Consciously, she had no clue about it. Yet somewhere deep down inside, her brain had safely filed me under the trusted category. They're currently out building a generator for me, and I'll message them right now. But you need to get back in bed. Your wounds aren't healed yet. My crossbow was put away as I reminded her. You've barely eaten in days. Let me whip you up a quick bite. Her gaze dropped down toward her own midsection. It was completely flat and totally hollowed out. She gave a soft, quiet nod. Trying to head back to the mattress all by herself, she turned around. Just 2 steps in, and her knees completely gave out. Before she could hit the deck, I lunged forward to catch her. Colony Medical Ward status update. We've got 1 paralyzed angel stuck in the toilet shack, plus a battered sniper who can barely keep her balance. And honestly, our attending physician is just a mouse girl, who's currently outside farming corn. Yeah, we are totally crushing it. Right before she slammed into the floor, I managed to scoop Walnut up. You can hardly even stand, so why are you trying to pull a stunt like that alone? Her furry little ears twitched as she mumbled a quick sorry. Would you mind just carrying me back instead? With a heavy sigh, I gently set her back down on the bed. Stay put this time while I go cook you something real. She offered a quiet thank you as I took care of her. Ahmed has already thanked me like 1,000,000 times by now. You're all set here, so munch on these berries while you wait for me. Leaving her there to snack on the fruit, I headed over to steam some corn. Having gone days without any food while totally unconscious, some proper nutrition was an absolute must for her. Half an hour later, I walked back in carrying 2 piping hot ears of corn. Watch out, they're super hot. Taking the corn from my hands, she didn't dig in immediately. She just stared up at me instead. I'm Walnut from the sunflower family. What's your name? Jiangling. Under her breath, she muttered the name over and over again. Jiangling, Jiangling. Got it. I'll make sure to lock that in my memory. For the very first time, I got a real good look at her. Now that she was awake, her entire vibe was so gentle. Golden locks framed a face that matched her soft, sweet personality. Her striking multicolored eyes paired with a voice so hushed. And, dainty, she sounded like an aristocratic lady straight out of vintage painting. It was honestly mind-boggling trying to reconcile all of that with her insanely high-level 17 marksmanship stats. This girl could easily shoot a fly off a moving target's wing, while looking like she'd turn around and apologize to the bug right after. Taking a bite into the corn, her eyes went wide with surprise. Wait, this isn't that synthetic stuff. I just flashed a smile. Dropping any further questions, sheer hunger completely took over her curiosity, as she demolished both ears of corn, tearing through them at a pace that would have made Clover proud. Rubbing her happily filled belly, she leaned back against the pillows. I haven't had a meal like that in ages. Shifting her gaze back to me as I stood beside the cot, a strange look flickered across her features. It was a faint hint of déjà vu she couldn't quite put her finger on. I've already pinged Almond, so they should be rolling up here soon. Get some shut-eye now, I added, turning on my heel. Pausing as she called out Zhongling, I glanced back. Thank you so much, she offered with a tender smile. Like I told Almond earlier. No worries at all. This batch was specially prepared by yours truly. There was just something about the tone of her voice, paired with the genuine warmth of her grin, that carried way more weight than a basic expression of gratitude. It felt as though she was thanking me for a specific moment that I hadn't even fully wrapped my head around yet. Vivid fragments of the nightmare rushed back to her mind. The pitch-black void, the terrifying flames, monsters closing in on her, and right at the very climax, a reassuring voice promising her that she was safe. It was my voice, and she knew without a doubt it belonged to me. She just chose to keep it to herself right after I walked out. Some muffled sobbing drifted in from just outside the stone walls. Suddenly, the heavy wooden door flew open, and Almond barged right in, looking like a total emotional wreck. Throwing herself right next to the bed, Walnut started bawling uncontrollably. I seriously thought you were going to bite the dust, man. Softly stroking Almond's hair, Walnut tried to calm her down. I'm totally chill, so stop freaking out. Keeping their ground, near the entrance stood Mignonette and Raspberry, trying hard to mask their low-key relief with strict composure. Then, a heavy shadow fell over Walnut's face. Are there really only 4 of us left standing? Wiping away her tears, Almond gave a heavy nod. Everything we had got wiped out, and half the caravan didn't make it. As the lead person in charge, this is totally on me. Quickly stepping in, Walnut insisted that it wasn't her fault at all. That was common knowledge to everyone. Nobody could have ever seen a bunch of fire-breathing psychos coming while running a trade route. Yet, Almond was dead, set on marching back to face the families themselves, ready to take whatever backlash came her way. This colony is actually a safe zone, Almond pointed out, and the owner treats us super well. Just catch some ZS here for a few days, and once you're back on your feet, we'll make tracks back to Cuzco. Gazing out the doorway at the sprawling colony for a quiet second, Walnut finally nodded and said, all right. Day 14 green face. The geothermal generator was totally up and running by this morning, marking our very first major infrastructure flex complete. I spent my morning smelting down Clover's raw iron ore into pure, refined metal, then handed it over to the mouse crew so they could start stringing cables. Power lines, stretching all the way from the generator back to our home base. Meanwhile, I posted up back at the colony to craft heavy electrical gear, like an electric stove and a high-tech electric forge. The mechanical processing workbench urgently needed some custom components that could only be cranked out by a powered forge, so everything had to go down in a strict order. Since Clover couldn't really assist with any of this technical stuff, she headed out to scavenge the outer perimeter instead. Her inner loot goblin was still working overtime, because even with our food supply secured, she still couldn't pass up, pocketing every single random piece of junk she stumbled across. Out here on the Rim world, that's probably just a core survival instinct, rather than a weird quirk. I was knee-deep in crafting when Walnut stepped outside into the fresh air and planted herself close by, quietly watching me slave away. Like a stealthy ghost, she lingered until I finally asked, "Shouldn't you be resting in bed right now? I'm totally fine to walk, and I just wanted some vitamin D, you know?" That casually reminded me that a certain winged angel had been locked away in a gloomy shack for over a week, with her feathers literally starting to wither away due to zero sunlight. I definitely needed to sneak Lucia out into the open air soon, though definitely not while the mouse crew was still hanging around. Her existence had to stay top secret. Standing up on her feet, Walnut began pacing slowly around the perimeter of the colony. She paused by a patch of green grass right next to the stone house and dropped a random question that totally threw me for a loop. "Hey, Jiangling, don't you think it'd look super aesthetic if we dropped some flower beds right here? Flowers in this brutal, lawless wasteland overrun by fire demons." This girl was actually out here stressing over landscaping. And honestly, I vibe with the idea so much. Stuck in a dull zone, totally lacking entertainment, and constantly grinding through survival stress, stepping out to a blooming flower garden every single morning would honestly be low-key therapeutic. That actually sounds dope. Yet I've never really noticed whatever flora is growing around this spot. There's seriously zero decent flowers.